Lamu County. This is the bill on the Wildlife Conservation and Management, that is Amendment Bill 2023. And the bill, the principal objective of this bill is to amend the Wildlife Conservation Management Act, that is number 47 of 2013, to include animals such as sharks, stonefish, whales, and stingrays among the wildlife species, in respect of which compensation as a result of death and injury that may be paid. This bill will ensure that the persons who live along the water bodies are entitled to payment of compensation as a result of death and injury from specified wildlife species. On the statement on the delegation legislative of powers and limitation of fundamental rights and freedoms, the bill by Honorable Captain Rueda, the Women Rep for Lamu, does not delegate legislative powers, nor does it limit fundamental rights and freedoms. The bill also does not concern county governments in terms of Article 109(5) of the Constitution, as it does not contain provincials that affect the functions and the powers of the county governments as set out in the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Part 1 of the 4th schedule to the Constitution provide the protection of the environment as well as the protection of animals and wildlife in a national government function to create coexistence between the two. The enactment of this bill shall not occasion additional expenditure of public funds. Also, on the Committee of the Whole House, and we have a couple of motions by different members of Parliament, and the Speaker of the House, the Deputy Speaker, Gladys Boss, has arrived to the House, and I hand over you to the plenary.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Having not achieved the required number of members of parliament for today's session, that is the second session of the morning sitting, being Wednesday, a day allocated for business, not sponsored by the majority or the minority party, of business sponsored by a committee. Members of parliament are being allowed inside the house in order for quorum to be achieved, pursuant to Standing Order 34, and the house business shall commence. We have a motion on the banning the growing of eucalyptus trees in the country. The motion brought by the Central Amending Member of Parliament, Moses Kirima, that the House resolve that the national government, through the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, orders absolute banning of planting eucalyptus trees and encourages the planting of indigenous species across the country. Also, that orders the uprooting of all eucalyptus trees and replacement with other varieties of trees, particularly indigenous species, to ensure conservation of water resources and sources and preserve the ecosystem. And lastly, to initiate the process of putting in place punitive measures against persons who defy the orders. The House is aware that the eucalyptus trees are species popular among large-scale and commercial tree farmers in Kenya. And these trees are grown in most ecological zones in the country, and in particular Western Central Rift Valley, Central Kenya, parts of Eastern, and the coastal regions of the country. Acknowledging that the farming of the eucalyptus trees has been on the rise due to their fast growth, good economic returns, and diverse commercial uses, such as transmission poles, the fuel wood, timber plywood, pulp, fencing posts, and building materials. And quorum has been achieved, and the House is set to begin. Now I hand over you to the plenary. My name is Angela Chiror from the Parliamentary Broadcast Unit.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 29th November 2023, morning sitting. 1. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2022 and certificates they are in: Kisumu Central and Kisumu East. 2. Annual report and financial statements of the Power of Mercy Advisory Committee, POMAC, for the financial year 2022-2023 from the Office of the Attorney General. 3. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2023 and certificates they are in respect of: A. Eastern Electricity Highway Project IDA credit number 548 KEAFD loan number CKE 103001B and ADF loan number 210015002745 Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited. Bogoria Silali Geothermal Project loan number 2013.66.103 Geothermal Development Company. Kenya Electricity Modernization Project Camp IDA CR number credit number 5587 KE Ministry of Energy. Last Mile Connectivity Project 1 loan number 2100150032 Kenya Power and Lighting Company PLC. Mombasa Special Economic Zone Development Project 1, Kenya National Highways Authority. Mombasa Mariakani Highway Project A, 109 Road, Lot 1, Mombasa kwa Jomvu, Kenya National Highways Authority. Horn of Africa Gateway Development Project loan number 6768 KE, Kenya National Highways Authority. Kenya Urban Support Program IDA number 6134 KE, State Department for Housing and Urban Development, National Police Service Commission, and the National Police Service Commission Staff Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Next order. Oh yeah, Justice and Legal Affairs, yeah, you do have a paper? Which means, okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 29th November 2023, morning sitting. Addendum to the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on its consideration of the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, tabled on 3rd October 2023. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me on a point of order to draw the attention of the members of the House to this addendum report, which I have just tabled. This is on the Conflict of Interest Bill, which is coming up for Committee of the Whole House this afternoon. This bill had many jitters with the members of Parliament, and the committee has looked at the bill clause by clause. There are proposals to amend almost every clause in this bill so that it is in consonance with our Constitution and the aspirations of members of Parliament and Kenyans. So please, if you get time, get a copy of this report, read it, and also sit through the Committee of the Whole House. Because we do not want to hear after that laws were passed in which some members did not participate, and they are actually criticizing those laws. It's a very important law on public servants. We have also taken care of the members of Parliament. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
What's your point of order, Honorable Makali?
You know, Madam Chair, following up on what the Chair Jailak has said, where a bill is being amended, almost every clause, would it be in order to suggest that they publish the bill so that it doesn't, because imagine every clause being amended, Madam Chair, that's a clear signal that something must not be working well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You want to respond to that, Honorable Murugara?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The mere fact that almost every clause is being amended does not mean we are actually losing the substance of the bill. We are making the bill a better law. And there is nothing absolutely stopping us from doing that. We are not deleting the clauses such that we are entirely removing the bill. It's where we feel this clause needs a slight amendment, a major amendment, whatever amendment is required. That is allowed by our standing orders. It's also allowed by the lawmaking process. So we are not losing the gist and substance of the bill, but we are making it a better law so that it complies with our Constitution, it complies with the aspirations of the members of Parliament and also the Kenyans at large. Thank you.
Yes, but Honorable Murugara, just remember that what Honorable Makali is asking about is that they would like to have a full draft of how it looks now, so that it's just for ease of reading, isn't it? Isn't that what you're asking for, Honorable Makali? Yeah, so just access to the complete draft, so that they're not looking at two documents. One is the original bill and one is the proposed amendments, so that you just have one document for ease of reference and for debate. There was another, just before you respond to that, let me get the point of order from Honorable Rosso, just so that in case you have to answer both.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think our President has already been said. The last time Honorable Pukose was prosecuting a bill that had basically changed the bill. And midway, this House was not able to prosecute that bill in the Committee of the Whole. And the Speaker had to recall that bill for basically putting it aside until we have a fresh bill. With tremendous respect to my brother, Honorable Murungara, and also he sat through that bill of Pukose. For that reason, I think we should not repeat what is already out there, and we know it for a fact. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Justice Kemi.
Madam Speaker, in addition to what the honorable colleagues have said, this is a very critical bill. It touches on matters of corruption in this country, and it touches on public servants. So, Madam Speaker, I was also of the opinion that instead of us comparing two pieces of paper, we would rather have just one piece of paper which we'll look at and make a decision on it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Murugara. And I think there's nothing wrong with providing material to members.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And unfortunately, it is not possible to do what is being requested to provide one document. The reason being, remember the bill that was debated in this House is the original bill. So you must hold that bill in one hand, then you look at the committee report with the proposed amendments on the other hand. It will only become one bill if the amendments sail through and the bill now becomes an act of parliament. That's when you take the amendments, you put them into the bill, and you have one document. As we speak today, or as we speak now, we have the original bill by the leader of majority. We also have the committee report on the other hand. As regards the proposal that we shelve the bill at this present moment in time, let us first see what is being proposed for amendment. That is number one. The Speaker will also have to look at the proposals which are going to be on the order paper, and then we will take a decision as to whether we should be redoing a new bill, and that can only be done by the leader of majority, not by the committee, because this is not a committee bill. It's a committee by the leader of majority, and the work of the committee was purely to examine it clause by clause as the responsible committee. So we cannot put the cart before the horse. We have to deal with it this afternoon, and please get a copy of the report, because if you rely on what you are told, that may not be true. Get a copy of the report. It has the clauses to be amended, and you have also to get the original bill, because that is what is done.
I think, Honorable Murugara, I don't think the members are asking that you change the standing orders or publish a new act. What they are asking is as a working document that they can have access to. And I think that is something that can be done by the clerk's office. And Honorable Murugara, you're a lawyer. What happens when there's amendments? You simply publish the entire document and then cross out what is being crossed out and write in a different color what is being introduced. Is that what happens when you do amendment of pleadings? So I think they're looking for a document like that for ease of reading, not a new publication, because that would contravene the standing orders. I think that is possible, and I think if you liaise with the clerk of your committee and also the clerk's office, they should be able to produce one and circulate to members. Will that make you happy, Honorable Makali and Justice Kemei?
You know, Honorable Speaker.
In case I'm saying the wrong thing, just...
No, you know, Honorable Speaker, what you are saying is very correct, but at the same time, the fact that the chair, JLAC, is saying the substance of the bill has not changed. But at the same time, in a situation where you have about, let's assume there are 20 clauses to that bill, and 18 of them have been amended, automatically it means the main body of the bill, and it's been amended by the committee, at the committee level. It actually agrees with what Honorable Russell was saying. Because if you remember the other bill we were discussing, what the Speaker did was harmonize and then literally publish another bill, which is now captures the issues. But what you are saying now, you will come even at the third reading, the committee of the whole house. What will happen is, even comparing the original with the new one, Honorable Speaker, will be very tricky, because every clause has been amended, and I can tell you for sure it will be very difficult for members to follow even in terms of text, in terms of content, and the whole objective of the bill. But it seems like where we are might not be able to go back. Let's survive with the way it is. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It will help members. The situation where, as you are saying, you delete the original, put so that you can easily compare and see what is changing. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, Honorable, I think just let me say this. Honorable Russo, we cannot say we are going to use the precedent that has been established, because they are different, the bills are different, and the circumstances may be different. That bill is not yet before us. So I think we are also speculating what might be there. I think Honorable Murugara has said, let us read it. So, Honorable Murugara, if the members have access to a document that can be a working document, just for their ease of reference, not a new publication, at the time, then members can actually see whether it's the objects and purpose of the bill has completely changed or has not. For now, we'll take your word for it, and then members can be able to make that decision at the time when the bill is actually properly before the House. But give them the working document so they can have an informed input to the bill. I think that's a middle ground.
Better approach, absolutely. Get a copy of the report. It has the schedule of amendments, just the way we do it in the House. Also get the original bill. Remember, it has gone through a second reading and passed. So the only thing left is committee of the whole House. That's where we can deal with it from that stage. Get the original bill, get a copy of the report, and you just see what is being proposed. Justification is also given in that report. It's not anything we are creating. Every proposal to amend, whether a comma, whether a word, whether a sentence or phrase, we have given justification. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's settled, honorable members. Let us proceed. The next order, is there another paper? Proceed to order number 5.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Do we have any statements? Okay. Okay, there's a statement by the member for Samburu North, Honorable Eli Letipila. Is he here? Oh, there. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding reported revenge killings and rising insecurity cases in Samburu North constituency. Honorable Speaker, bandit attacks and cattle rustling have continued to wreak havoc in the North Rift regions over the years. Hundreds of lives have been lost and thousands of livestock stolen in a vice that has led communities living in Alberta, Nachola, Nyiro, and Angata Nanyuke wards in desperate state, despite the government gazetting these areas as disturbed zones. In the recent, 3 lives have been lost in Samburu North constituency following revenge killings by unknown assailants in a span of 2 weeks. Mr. James Oeborkera, ID number 24760971, was attacked and shot dead on 9th November 2023 while grazing his goats. Mr. Almika Lerete, ID number 2151-4758, was killed while at home within Gilai village on 20th November, while Mr. Agustin Egelan, ID number 2381-0913, was gunned down on 23rd November 2023, a teacher, while walking home within Baragoi town. Honorable Speaker, on October 2022, at Baragoi Stadium in Baragoi in Samburu North constituency, His Excellency the President gave a directive to end the rising insecurity cases and cattle rustling that have led to loss of lives, displacement of residents, and loss of thousands of livestock in the northern regions of the country. Consequently, following a spike of violent activities by militias, pastoralist militias, the government launched an operation dubbed Operation Maliza Uhalifu North Rift. However, its long-term impact remains uncertain due to multiple security challenges in the North Rift and the risk of overstretching government resources and government security forces. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on 1, the status of the peace operations in Samburu North constituency, particularly in Alberta, Nachola, Nyiro, Ndoto, and Angata Nanyuke wards of Samburu North constituency. 2. The reasons for pulling out the Special Operations Group of the Administration Police from Baragoi in Samburu North, despite their efficient role in reducing lawlessness and bringing normalcy in Samburu North, and the plans to reinstate the said group to continue with security and peace operations in the area. 3. Measures put in place by the government to manage the rising cases of revenge killings, past and present, within Baragoi area and bring the culprits to book. And 4, the number of people arrested, arraigned, and convicted in court over these attacks in order to restore public confidence within the communities living in Samburu North. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Samburu. Next order. Is it Interior Chairperson for Defense? Oh, you're there. There you are. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand in for the Chair of Administration and Internal Security Committee. Last week, the committee was in Samburu West and Turkana East and Turkana West. The committee will be visiting next week Marakwet and West Pokot. We are fully aware of what is happening in Samburu, in Laikipia, Baringo, Turkana, and West Pokot. For that reason, we'll respond to the statement by Honorable Etipila in 2 weeks' time. But also we are going to call all our colleagues from those disturbed areas. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Kangogo Bowen.
Madam Speaker, the stories we've been hearing for many years about how the insecurity in Kerio Valley, the northern part of the country, is going to be addressed, both from chairs in this House and even in the office of the President under the Cabinet Secretary of Internal Security, has always been the same. And there is nothing comes out of it. Madam Speaker, being our colleague, is the Honorable Raso, who is one of our colleagues and is in that position, courtesy of all of us, especially from this pastoral region, I want to ask the Honorable Raso not to be taken rounds again by the Cabinet Secretary and the security apparatus in this country on the same stories that they are going to establish a police station here, they are going to do this, they are going to do this. Let's go for a practical solutions. And we have given, as leaders from those areas, in many cases we have given a practical solutions of NPRs to be deployed in every communities, and they need to be armed so that, because they know the entry and the exit routes of these criminals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the reason why Kerio Valley, those parts of Samburu, there is insecurity because there is no infrastructure. These are places which has been completely neglected, no government in place, no water points, no roads, no schools, no judge, nothing. There is no government. Those people, they are just living by their own. So, Madam Speaker, we want to, even because I have raised statements in this House, no member from Kerio Valley or from the northern part of this country, Madam Speaker, has not raised a statement in this House to do with insecurity. All of us, we have raised. But it's the same story we are getting. Can we get something different? When Waziri comes here, he tells us he's going to deploy police officers. He's the same.
Allow him to complete his sentence, I think.
I'm done.
Who's that next to Honorable Bowen? My eyesight is. Give the member to the right of Honorable Bowen.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Samburu for bringing that issue. And Madam Speaker, I think it is very unfortunate that at this particular time, at this particular moment in Kenya, we are still hearing Kenyans dying because of cattle rustling and other related issues, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think we need to have a full report and an action plan, Madam Speaker, to show how the Kenyan police are actually acting on these matters. Madam Speaker, when you go around this country, when you hear the member for Marakwet East saying there is no government in that place, some of us, we have police, we have people who are busy collecting bribes in the roads, Madam Speaker. They should actually, we need to rationalize the police, Madam Speaker, because we have police who are just on the roads. They're just collecting bribes, petty crimes, Madam Speaker, harassing women, harassing children, Madam Speaker, in some places. I think it is high time that we rationalize the police. We take them to where they are needed. We take them to places where support is needed, Madam Speaker. So I think I want to support our colleague from Samburu, and actually we call upon the police who are actually there now, the leaders, the security team, that when all these matters are happening, where are they? What is the issue? Where are the issues? Do they have vehicles? At this era of technology, Madam Speaker, it's very unfortunate to hear people with arrows and without vehicles can ambush a village, get away 100 kilometers, Madam Speaker, without the government arresting them, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, Honorable Ruku, and if somebody could help, I think I need help with my screen. I need my screen to be on so I can recognize the member of parliament speaking, because they are far away, I can't see them. Honorable Ruku.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this issue of insecurity in this part of the country, we need also to address the issue of culture. Because some of these insecurities are driven because of the culture of the people of that area, and that is the truth of the matter. That raiding cattle, raiding other people's, other communities' homes, driving away huge herds of cattle is considered as heroism in this part of the country. Madam Speaker, these leaders who come from this part of the country, they need also to address the issue of culture, so that that kind of insecurity can be settled. We will continue blaming police officers, we will continue blaming government, when it is us, ourselves, who perpetuate this kind of culture, Madam Speaker. I think it is important for the leaders in this House to consider, having a deliberate discussion with the elders, with the young people of these communities, to see how this kind of culture can change. It cannot be heroism to go and drive huge herd of cattle using guns just to be a hero in that society. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'll give one more person. That the member for Turkana. My screen is not working, so I can't see your face clearly. All right, proceed. 5 minutes, and then we can close this, because I've just indulged the members.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. Looks like this corner on this side is disadvantaged. Maybe you will need another lens to be able to see us.
No, it's just usually my screen works, so your face comes up.
Thank you.
The screen,
thank
but
you.
Today
thank you.
It's not working.
Most guided. Honorable Speaker, we are discussing the issue of insecurity again in northern Kenya. The issue brought out by Honorable Eli is very pertinent to this country. And
Honorable Meli, kindly, we need you in the room, and team.
Honorable Speaker, the issue at hand is very pertinent. I want to thank Honorable Eli for bringing it out. Again, we are repeating the same thing as Honorable Bowen has mentioned, that soon we'll be like crying babies. And from the onset, I want to see how the CS Kindiki will always be coming to give us a brief on the progress that is happening in northern Kenya, especially on the operations that was approved, that is going on. Madam Speaker, what is happening in Samburu, as reported, especially in Samburu North, is very unfortunate at this time. Number one, we have lost 3 lives in 2 weeks, in 1 month, this month of November. And it's like, if you look at what is happening, the bandits are coming back to town. They are urbanizing their banditry tactics. And in this case, we, those who stay in the urban areas, are also at risk. Number 2, those who have lost their lives were killed, not even mentioned, living in areas that are bandit-prone, but in towns. That calls for a speech, and we will request the CS Kindiki to give us an update of what has just happened. Because a life lost is important to us in the north and to Kenya. Madam Speaker, it is important to get a review of what Kindiki is doing. It is important for us to work together with him so that we don't keep on just being told this thing is happening when nothing is happening. Madam Speaker, lives are being lost. We are being told it's an operation. People are losing their livelihoods every time now and then, even their beneficiaries. Madam Speaker, I will beseech that we get to understand what is happening once and for all. Otherwise, soon we may request even to see if we can secede, and we discuss it, because we are getting almost being killed day in, day out. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion. Exemption of certain business from Standing Order 43.
Deputy Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to move a motion on exemption of certain businesses from Standing Order 43. That this House resolves to exempt the business of appearing as Order number 12 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order number 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable Speaker, we have this very important bill, number 12, the National Lottery Bill, which was debated yesterday. And I think members expressed themselves adequately yesterday. And I think the only business we have today, Honorable Speaker, I'll request you is that we reply to this motion. And at reply, we expect to put the question in the afternoon. And therefore, we request that we be exempted from the normal procedure that being a Wednesday morning, which is specifically done for members' business, we allow that this motion be put on the order paper, that we discuss. The only thing that we need to do, Honorable Speaker, is that we reply. Then, so that we have an opportunity to put the question in the afternoon, so that we may be able to finish this particular piece of legislation within this session, so that it does not have to go to the next session. Honorable Speaker, I request the Honorable Ruku, the gentleman from Meru, and from Bere, Yes, Mberes are tall, Merus are short. So please, kindly second this motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In Bere we have giants. I'm one of them, and the other giant was the Honorable Justin Muturi, the former Speaker of this House. Madam Speaker, I rise to second this motion because it is important that we have this discussion. We debate this national Rotary bill so that it's very important, it's very timely that it will establish National Rotary Board and the National Rotary Fund in this country. Mr. Speaker, this is an important motion, and this is an important bill. It needs to be allocated time this morning so that we can be able to expedite the implementation process. Madam Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 12 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. It's the mood of the House. I put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 12 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9. The Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill number 2, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2022. Second reading. Question to be put.
Is that order number 9? Honorable members, I now put the question that the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill number 2, Bill of the National Assembly, Bill number 45 of 2022 be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
The Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment number 2, Bill 2022. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Cancer Prevention and Control Act and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10. The Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2023. Second reading. Question to be put.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2023 be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013.
Move to the next order. Yeah? Honorable members, I seek your indulgence that just for efficiency of the House, that I reorder the order paper so that we go immediately to order number 12, and then we'll come back to order number 11, which is Committee of the Whole. So order number 12. What's your point of order?
Order number 12. Order number 12, the National Lottery Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2023. Second reading, resumption of debate.
What's your point of order, Honorable Ruku?
Madam Speaker, I rise on point of order number 95. I'm starting order number 95, that this motion was discussed and by many members, and I think it is a mood of the House that we call the mover to reply. Thank you.
Is that the mood of the House, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader? Proceed. You may reply.
Honorable Speaker, the lottery, the National Lottery Bill, which we canvassed here yesterday, and the members expressed themselves adequately on this bill, that there are many issues that are raised that we will handle at third reading, several amendments that members raised. This is an important bill, Honorable Speaker, because, as you know, this country has had before the Kenya Charity Sweepstake. The Kenya Charity Sweepstake, Honorable Speaker, did a lot of charity work because of the money that was accumulated through lottery. And there is a lot of lotteries that are happening in this country, although they come in the form of gambling, and which we must put a law. I think we have the gambling bill coming up. But lottery is important to build reserve, to build capital for many development of this country. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply to this so that we have an opportunity to continue to put the question in the afternoon. But as I do that, I would like to request the Honorable Mutunga to take only 1 minute, as if you allow, Honorable Speaker, I want to donate to him 1 minute to express a few items, and then we finish with it. Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader for giving me a minute. Honorable Speaker, we have decided to do this law to better regulate the sector. Therefore, let us do a very good law. Honorable Speaker, there are a few omissions that I would like to note. One of them is the qualifying. One of the functions of the board is to qualify who actually gets registered as a national lottery agency. The board does not have that function. And if you look at Clause 24 clearly provides for the same. So it is missing in the functions, and it is being brought again as a function of the board. The other issue, Honorable Speaker, the issue of monitoring the performance and the fees and levies that might come by or maybe come by is important. The other issue, Honorable Speaker, we need to be raising money within the subsectors to sustain the subsector, even as we look at sustainability. We may need to consider a levy for this particular, for any monies that is accruable, so that it can be used to run the subsector. So, Honorable Speaker, some of those I'll be bringing in the as amendments in the third reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, I now put the question that the national... I thought you finished replying. You didn't? Oh, you gave out... You finished, yes. He did. He just donated a minute of his time. Honorable members, I now put the question that the National Lottery Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2023, be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the National Lottery, the National Lottery Board, and the National Lottery Fund, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Whole House.
We may take our seats. Good morning to you, members. Order number 11 deals with the Committee of the Whole House on the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, a very short one. I'm sure it's going to take us 5 minutes or 10 at most. Then we can go back to the other business in the order paper.
Clause 3.
All members, I propose the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. The mover of this bill, Chairperson, Honorable Alice Nganga is around.
Thank you, Chair. That I move that clause 3 of the bill to be amended by deleting paragraph B. Chair, I wish to move the amendment as per the order paper. Clause 3B of the bill seeks to remove the power of the youth to erect their own responsibility to the National Youth Council and confer upon the Cabinet Secretary responsibility matters relating to the youth and the power to nominate 9 youth to be in the council. This does not foster the dictates of Article 55B of the Constitution, which provide that the state should take measures to ensure that the youth have opportunity to be presented and participate in political, social, and economic and other spheres of life. Further, clause 3B of the bill dictates the right of the youth to choose and elect their own leaders who should champion for the youth agenda. Noting the need to retain the spirit of youth participation through a democratic process coming up with the council, I move to delete the proposed amendment clause 3B as per the order paper.
Thank you. Members, I propose the question that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the chairperson of that committee. I now put the question that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Alice Nganga. Will has been a opinion say aye? Will has been a opinion say nay? Ayes have it. Members, I now put the question that clause 3 as amended be part of the bill. Has been another opinion say aye? Has been a opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Members, I propose the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. Mover.
Thank you, Chair. That clause 4 of the bill be amended by deleting the word paragraph G and substituting it there for the word paragraph F. I beg to move the amendment to clause 4 as per the order paper. The proposed amendment to clause 4 of the bill seeks to correct typographical error and make reference to the correct paragraph B.
I propose the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Alice Nganga. I now put the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Alice Nganga. Has been another opinion say aye? Has been a counter opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 4 as amended be part of the bill. Has been another opinion say aye? Has been a counter opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 2. Clause
2. I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Has been another opinion say aye? Has been a counter opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Has another opinion say aye? Has many other opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. As many other opinions say aye. As many other opinions say nay. The ayes have it. The mover, where you are, could you move the report, move for reporting? Honorable Kandia.
Thank you, Chairperson. I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2023, and its approval thereon with amendments.
Thank you, honorable members. I now put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. As many other opinions say aye. As many other opinions say nay. The ayes have it.
Chairperson to report.
The Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2023, and approved the same with amendments.
Thank you. Move of the bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I request Honorable Tuku Kwenya to second. I call upon Honorable Benja to second.
I second, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. We'll defer the question to a later time. Okay, next order.
Order number 13, the Geriatric Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2022, second reading.
Mover of the bill, Honorable Mushomba.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move the Geriatric Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2022 on the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, geriatric or geriatric medicine is a medical specialty focused on providing care for the unique health needs of the older persons or the adults. The term geriatrics originate from the Greek, meaning old man, and trix meaning healer. So Geriatric Bill 2022 seeks to effect Article 57 of the Constitution of Kenya to ensure provision of proper care and maintenance of well-being of the elderly people of Kenya. Madam Speaker, Geriatric Bill 2022 was committed to the Labor and Social Welfare Committee for the consideration and undertakes pre-publication scrutiny and makes appropriate recommendations required pursuant to Standing Order number 106, subsection 6. The bill therefore seeks to effect the Article 57 of the Constitution to establish a National Council for the Elderly, to provide for the care of the elderly persons, to provide for the empowerment and protection of the elderly persons of Kenya, and maintenance of their well-being, safety, and security. Madam Speaker, world over, a society is measured by how it takes care of the elderly citizens, and therefore, as a country, we need to prioritize the needs of the elder persons of this country, provide budgetary allocations to deliver on such services, and it is on this backdrop, Madam Speaker, that the Geriatric Bill 2022 was developed with the primary objective and operationalization of Article 57 of the Constitution through the establishment of the National Council for the Elderly. Madam Speaker, we are all going to be subjects and victims of age, and therefore it is important that we handle this issue with a lot of concern, because we are either elderly or going to become elderly, or we have relatives, mothers and fathers who are elderly and requires their issues taken care of through the House. The objectives and purpose of this bill, Madam Speaker, is to establish a National Council for the Elderly Persons of Kenya, provide a legal framework that promotes the rights of the elderly as enshrined under Article 57 of the Constitution of Kenya, promote and protect the dignity, the well-being, the safety, the security of the elder persons of Kenya, provide for a framework for the registration of elderly persons of Kenya, and establishment and management of residential facilities for the elderly, what we call care centers in Kenya, and prohibit the abuse of elderly persons of Kenya. Madam Speaker, the provision of the bill shall apply to all entities providing the services of the elderly persons of Kenya, and binds both natural and juristic persons to the application of the extent. The bill seeks to improve the living conditions of the older members of the society by providing for their rights to dignity, right to safety, right to security, education, health, equality, and non-discrimination. Madam Speaker, to realize the objectives of this bill and the purpose of this bill, the government entities and other institutions providing services to the elderly shall be guided by specific principles with common intent to fulfill the basic human rights and principles of respect, protection, promotion, and fulfillment of the rights of the elderly persons as enshrined under Article 57 of the Constitution, principles of fair and equity treatment of the elderly persons of Kenya, accountability of duty bearers, and transparency in implementation of this Act, and pursuant to provision of Article 27 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, ensure protection of elderly persons from discrimination on any grounds including age, health, status, and disability. Targeted empowerment of the elderly persons, preservation of freedoms and dignity of the elderly persons, and establishment and monitoring of evaluation of mechanisms on how transparency in the management of facilities of the elder care of the elderly. Madam Speaker, the bill delegates registration's power but does not limit to the fundamental rights and freedoms. The bill is seeking to provide the will and form the basis of enhanced service delivery to the elderly in the country, and will fortify legislative architecture with regard to social issues concerning to the elderly people of Kenya. It is in this line, Madam Speaker, that the bill seeks to solve the discrimination that has been happening around the service delivery to the elderly persons of Kenya. The bill also seeks to formulate and provide a legal framework on coordination of activities for people who seeks to provide services to the elderly people of Kenya. The bill prescribed to the eligibility criteria in clause 24 in the state intervention on matters pension and other related benefits accruing to older persons in the society. Other rights include legal representation, family and community care. Madam Speaker, as I seek to move this bill, I am quick to note that the elderly persons of Kenya for a long time have suffered a lot of discrimination. Look at what happens when elderly persons of Kenya are involved in legal matters where they require representation in courts or wherever they need those services. Madam Speaker, most of these people are not able to access legal services, but the government has not provided for any provision where an elderly person of Kenya can get free legal services and support from the government. And that is why this bill is coming in place. Madam Speaker, in the last few years, in the last 1 decade in Kenya, the elderly persons of Kenya have been registered in various government platforms where they are supposed to be provided for their monthly stipend. Madam Speaker, the registration of those people is discriminative. Reason being, the people who are trusted to go and register the elderly persons of Kenya in the villages do not have a legal framework. They do not even have a formal way of keeping their database. It is in this line that we are proposing that we come up with a national body called the National Council for the Elderly People of Kenya, so that the council can come up with a legal framework on how we'll be doing the registration and how we'll be ensuring that there is accountability and transparency when it comes to the dissemination of information, training of the elderly people, informing them on government programs, and more specifically to make sure that accountability of government resources has been taken care of. Madam Speaker, the youth of Kenya have a council. Madam Speaker, the people living with disability in Kenya have their own council. Madam Speaker, we have councils for specific categories of people, but we don't have a council for people who are elderly. We need an advisory council, we need a management council, we need a council that can be able to allocate budgets so that we can be able to know how much money we require. For example, for parents living with diabetes, parents living with hypertension, and even old parents who require other personal care needs. Madam Speaker, it is in that line that I decided to come up with this bill, and I'm forever grateful to this House, and more specifically to the Committee of Labor and Social Protection, headed by the Chairperson, Honorable Alice Wambui Ng'ang'a, for the immense support that I have received when I struggled to come up with this bill. And I am keen also to note, Madam Speaker, that this is a bill that we all require because we are all subject and victims of old age. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I beg to move. Thank you.
You have a seconder?
I would request that the Honorable Naomi Wako seconds.
Honorable Naomi Wako, proceed to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I also congratulate Honorable Wamshomba for coming up with this very important bill that will take care of our elderly. And as she has rightly said, that the elderly in our society have suffered a lot because of negligence, and sometimes even their own children don't take care of them. And before, you know, Africans used to take care of the elderly because they also believed in the blessings that they received from their fathers, their grandparents and great-grandparents. But today that is not the case. Many elderly people have been exposed to a lot of danger, and especially those who own a bit of land and who have no one to take care of them. Because people eye their properties, sometimes people don't want to take care of them. They have been exposed, and that is why I am here to second her and also urge other members to support so that our elderly can live honorable lives even in their old age and can age gracefully. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I second.
Thank you, Honorable Naomi. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the geriatric bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2022, be read a second time. The Honorable Alice Nganga, Member for Thika Town and Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to rise to support the geriatric bill. Honorable Speaker, you know, it talks about our vulnerable in the society. And first I want to congratulate and to thank Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba for thinking about our elderly persons. And it is true, we have various council for different categories, but there are none that represent the elderly. So this bill is very timely. Those elderly members of our society were once very vibrant like us. It's only a time has come, even us, in some years to come. We are also going to join them in that category of the elderly. So thinking about them, and especially when they reach at the age of 70, especially what the government has done is to give them a stipend of 2,000 Kenya shillings. And we know in the month of September, we recruited more because the last time we did a registration was in 2017. So it was right for this government of Kenya Kwanza. In 2023, September, we did a mass registration across the country, and they came out in large numbers. 700,000 of them came out. And I also want to thank this House because they went back to the grassroots as the members of the National Assembly to help register the elderly, and that's how we came up with 700,000, a number, and it was a great number. And I also want to inform the House that from the month of March, they also be included in receiving their 2,000 Kenya shillings as the rest of the other ones who are registered in 2017. So having a council to oversee how the elderlies are doing and how they are treated, we live in the society where we see that even before, when the money was sent to them, the 2,000, their family members knew that the 2,000, especially when they were not paid, it is not like now where they are paid at the end of every month. There's a time there was a delay. Before we came in, they would stay even for 7 months without being paid. And their family members would realize that the elderly was going to receive 14,000 Kenya shillings, and they were there and they would take the money from them. I thank the government because right now they receive at the end of every month, so meaning at least, you know, at that age, most of the time that money goes to medication. And so when it comes to timely, it really do assist them. Having this council, the council is going to be representing their needs. It is going to be knowing those who are sick or those who are not sick. It is going to know those who are abused or those who are not abused. So it is a good thing, and we should look forward to having this council because they do represent these people back at home. So even when it comes to the third reading where the amendments will be done, I'll be seated here. When we went through the report, we realized there were a few areas that needed to be amended. And when that time comes, I'll do it because this bill is very timely and it is needed by our society. Once again, I want to thank Honorable Wamuchomba. Thank you very much for thinking about our elderly in the society. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Julius Ole Sunkuli, Member for Kilgoris.
Madam Speaker, I wish to support this bill and to thank the Honorable Member for Githunguri for thinking about this bill and thinking about our elderly people. Article 57 of our Constitution, of the 2010 Constitution, provides that the state shall take measures to ensure the rights of older people. And this is with respect to the fact that older people are vulnerable in many ways, and that the law should protect them so that they can be able to live in dignity and respect, and that they should live free of abuse. And these are the principles that this bill has actually emphasized on. And this, the Constitution of Kenya has built upon the policy, what has been described as the National Social Protection Policy of May 2012. And the government of Kenya has been urged and nudged several times, even by Parliament, to ensure that the protection of older people is a matter of law as well as a matter of discipline. Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate that nowadays this particular matter is no longer a community issue. In days gone by, it was a responsibility of the family, of the community, to protect their elderly persons. But now that our community is also looked after by the government, it is good that this bill is bringing some responsibility to the government to ensure that older people are looked after. And I'm happy that this issue of legal representation of the elderly people is actually emphasized in this bill. That when a person gets old, I have an old man in Kilgoris, he's about 90 years of age. He's being bothered by family and everybody over land because he owns a lot of land, but he lives in poverty because he has been taken to court and he cannot be represented by anybody. And I think that this law emphasizes the fact that these people must be given a guarantee that they have a lawyer, that they are protected, so that they do not have relatives who are praying for them to to die so that they can inherit the land. A person must be able to enjoy his property, even if it is for 10 years, even if it is for 15 years, and the law must be able to guarantee this. I see that this bill also has a very interesting concept, which I think is welcome for the men, that older people have a right to remarry, and that when an older person has lost his spouse, that the children or his relatives should not be able to should not say, no, you are too old to marry. If that is what is going to make you happy, whether as a man or as a woman, I think it is the responsibility of the laws of Kenya.
What is out of order? Honorable.
I think they are just happy, Madam Speaker, about this point.
You are just excited about the elderly having a right to marry? You proceed with your debate, Member for Kilgoris.
Yes, Madam Speaker, and as I keep on saying, I'm grateful to Honorable Wamushomba for having said so in the bill, that in fact this right be entrenched. Because, Madam Speaker, you know, when King David in the Bible was very old, they looked for every cure for him, and they only found remarriage as the only option. And he was given a young bride to look after him. That should be a right. And it should not be seen that this is something that the family can dictate to you. Madam Speaker, I missed the discussion on the population policy in Kenya. But now, it is clear that in this country, we still have the advantage that our younger people are more than the older people. When it gets to a situation where the older people are more, like in Europe, it would have complicated our situation. Because we still have that advantage, it is good to entrench in our law that society, even beyond government, has a responsibility to protect its older people. The young people must look after the older people, and that there must be a way in which we can compel sons and daughters who do not want to look after their old people to suffer the same consequences under the law as the people who neglect their children. So that if you neglect your elders, it is the same punishment that you receive as if you neglected your children. This law, Madam Speaker, is very, very good for our social protection. It is a recognition that if all of us are praying for many years on earth, that one day we shall all get old and that we shall want to benefit from this law. And I commend it to the House. It's a good law, and let us support it. I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Timothy Toroitich, member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, at the onset, let me take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Muchomba, the MP for Githongori, for such a progressive piece of legislation. Honorable Speaker, there's a time I spoke here, and Honorable Muchomba spoke very good things about me on a motion I sponsored on cancer fund motion that I brought for this House. Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank the Deputy Githongori for choosing such a progressive member of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, for the first time, the elderly in this country are going to be recognized. Honorable Speaker, Article 57 of the Constitution provides very clearly for the rights of the elderly. Honorable Speaker, in this country we have a progressive constitution that has recognized three marginalized people, that is the youth, PWDs, and the elderly. Honorable Speaker, the elderly, the PWDs in this country have a law, that is the National Cancer Bill, the National Cancer Act. The Persons Living with Disabilities Act that provides for the PWDs. We have the National Youth Council Act that provides for the youth. For the first time, Honorable Speaker, we shall have a law that provides for the elderly. The only thing that I want to challenge Honorable Muchomba is she has called the bill the geriatric bill. Honorable Speaker, I wish to call upon the committee to relook at the title of this bill and call it the National Council for Elderly Bill, so that we avoid the complicated title of the bill, so that it provides very clearly that this is a bill that deals with the elderly and it creates a council. Honorable Speaker, if you look...
Timothy Toretich, just give me a minute. I would like to give an opportunity to the Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable Alice Nganga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is it a point of information?
No, I just want to inform him. Point of information.
Okay, would you like to be informed by the Chairperson?
Yes.
You would like to be informed? Yes, proceed, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to inform the member that, like I have said, when we come to the third reading, the committee went through the bill, and we have those amendments to the bill. And at that point, Honorable Member, we were going to address all where we found that the bill need to be amended. Thank you, including the title. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So,
Chair, yeah, that is. I think that is in order, so that we can have the Council for Elderly bill instead of the geriatric bill. Chair, Honorable Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, if you read Article 57 of the Constitution, which I said is very progressive, it provides very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that the state shall take measures to ensure the rights of older persons to fully participate in the affairs of society, to pursue their personal development, to live in dignity and respect, and to be free from abuse, and to receive reasonable care and assistance from their family and the state. So, Chair, Honorable Speaker, these are constitutional provisions that provides that the elderly are not in this country on their invitation. They are in this country by right. And Honorable Speaker, for the first time, if you read the clause 2 of this bill, or interpretation, for the first time, elderly person has been defined to mean a person who has attained the age of 60 years for the first time. It has never been defined in the Constitution, but this bill for the first time defines who an elderly person is. So that if someone retires, then there is a law in place that has made specific provisions on the definition of their age, of elderly. Honorable Chair, elderly persons have suffered in this country in terms of pension. Look at this provision of clause 7B. It provides that this council shall handle matters with pensions. Honorable Speaker, I have had issues from my constituency. Teachers who have retired at the age of 60, but cannot get their pension until the age of 70 because of serious irregularities involving their employer. So, Chair, Honorable Speaker, if we have this council, then they can be able to fight and defend the interests of the elderly persons who cannot get their rights and benefits if they have retired from the public service. Honorable Speaker, I have also seen a very interesting provision that provides for child care, for the elderly care, so that elderly homes are set up and run by this council. Honorable Speaker, elderly persons in this country have suffered. Most of them are, when they retire, they go to the village, their children abandon them, and they end up living a miserable life. So, Chair, if we have this council, that means they can solicit for support. If the family cannot be able to take care of their elderly persons for one reason or another, then they shall have a home where they can retire as they await exit from planet Earth. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill and I thank the honorable member for this very progressive piece of legislation.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Stephen Mogaka, member for West Mogirango. He seems to have stepped out. The Honorable Ruth Odinga, member for Kisumu County.
Thank you, Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank my Honorable Chair, Honorable Mutembei, for bringing up this bill, because this is a very important bill. And I think that it's high time that we did it. Myself, as a Ruth, I suffer from this very much. I have my auntie, the only sister to Mzee Jaramogi, who is 105 years old, and she suffered a stroke, and after 5 days, the doctor told me to take her home to wait for her death. Now, we didn't take her home, and I took her in my care, where she's still with me. She's now 106 years old, but I have to foot all the bills to make sure that we as a family have to foot that to make sure that she's still alive. She has fully recovered and is still going strong. This is one of the ladies who has been a hero in Kenya, because she was there during the Mau Mau, and she has been one of the people who was being given even some monies owed to her because of the period that they were there during that period. Now, to me, the times are changing. Let's be realistic. We have got epidemics like in Nyanza, where we had very high prevalence of HIV/AIDS that took away a lot of our young people. And most of the homes that were there are remaining with old people who do not have anybody to take them, to look after them. This causes a case where you find that it's only the old elderly with the young children of the parents who passed away, either through HIV or COVID, who are remaining in the village. Most of these young people are selling the homes and selling the land, to the point that you find that this elderly person is staying in a home where there's nowhere she can be able to support, or he can be able to support themselves in those villages. There's that neglect. And you don't have homes like in Europe, where you have these elderly homes where we can even take these elderly people to stay in. So to me, the bringing up of this bill is very, very timely for us to be able to see how can we support them. Number two is the dignity of these old people. We go to spaces where we have public spaces. When they go to the public hospitals or any place where they go to look for services, in most cases, they are kept waiting like any other ordinary person who is a well person who is there. We need to see that how do we actually give them the space to continue having their dignity in these public places. And the other one is that the facilities that we need. Like, for example, when we wanted to get aids, or you want to get for them aids, like the aids they use for walking, the walking frame, the crutches, and all the aids that they need. These aids are not cheap. And in most cases, they don't get them free like they should in whatever, because when you are elderly, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're sick and you should be treated as a sick person, but you could be disabled in the sense that you can't do the things you used to do, and you need this aid. And yet this aid is supposed to be bought. These elderly people do not even have the kind of money to buy this. So for me, I believe that this bill will bring a big change. And we must also say that now we are going to be having, and we do have more elderly people in the society, and this means that we need to look for ways that we are going to support these elderly people in the society. Therefore, for me, I do support this bill and think that it is a very necessary one. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Ainai Moi, Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill. Madam Speaker, let me thank the leader of the bill for the research that she has done and be able to table the bill in this House. This bill, Madam Speaker, actually is under Article 57 of the Constitution. And I remember one member here has just said there are 3 categories of people where the Constitution has given special mention, but actually there are 4, Madam Speaker. There are the children, Madam Speaker, which we must take care of. We have persons with disabilities, which we have taken care of, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also have the youth, which we have also taken care of. Madam Speaker, minorities and marginalized groups, Madam Speaker, which by and large we have also taken care of. Madam Speaker, I think all the members of the society are the only group that have not been taken care of by way of legislation or organization, Madam Speaker. So I want to say I support this bill. All the persons are members of our community. They have contributed to our society. They have contributed to our economy. They continue to contribute to our culture and so forth, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Kenya is where it is today because of the people who are the elderly of this country, Madam Speaker. And somebody has said we are also going to that direction, Madam Speaker. At that age, Madam Speaker, there are those who are lucky. They still have children who take care of them, Madam Speaker. Culturally, many of the communities will obligate the children to take care of their parents. But the society where we are today, Madam Speaker, is changing. Children are growing up, they are pursuing their career, they are pursuing their education. Some of them are actually going outside the country, Madam Speaker, leaving their parents behind. Madam Speaker, even though you might find parents who are well-to-do, they have land, they have money, Madam Speaker, but at that age, they are incapacitated, Madam Speaker. And therefore, we must have a framework that provides that the state can take care of them. I like the idea that we are forming a council that will actually pursue and follow the rights of these members of the society. Madam Speaker, even as we form the council, we must make sure that we put structures all the way up to the lower level where we can be able to identify the elderly, the vulnerable members of the society. So I want to thank the member and say I support. I think this house, we have continued to provide for monies to support the elderly, Madam Speaker. But I want to say, maybe this is the time we need to reconsider the amounts. This is the time we need to reconsider the criteria. I think with this council, we hopefully that they'll come with a criteria that really defines who is an elder person, at what age, and what criteria. Because I think what we have been using in the past, Madam Speaker, has been very discriminatory. You can find same people of the same age. One of them is enjoying the benefits, the other one is not enjoying the benefits. But I think it's high time that we harmonize so that all people of a certain category are given the same support, Madam Speaker. So I support the bill. I hope the committee will look at it, as has been said, including the name, the structures that will be formed. But by and large, Madam Speaker, I want to say I support. In fact, when time comes for voting for the funds to support the elderly, Madam Speaker, I will be the first one to support, because elder people are our senior members. Those of us who are Christians, we are called upon to respect your parents, to take care of our parents, so that our numbers, our age can be increased, Madam Speaker. So I totally support and look forward to taking care of the elderly people. I support.
Thank you, Ambassador. The Honorable Hilary Kosgei, member for Kipkelion West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join my colleagues in congratulating the member for Githunguri, the Honorable Wamushomba, for coming up with this timely and progressive bill, Madam Speaker. at independence, Madam Speaker, the crafters and the founders of this republic were so concerned about building the new nation that they put a lot of energy in the youth, white-collar jobs, and other sectors of the economy, and forgot that they are the ones to get old in due course, Madam Speaker. And you have seen, Madam Speaker, recently, the people who fought for independence in this country, the Mau Maus, they have died a deplorable life, Madam Speaker, because of lack of bills that are progressive, that were to take care of them in their old age like this, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, this is not only a call to the country. Madam Speaker, Gathoni wa Mushomba is also responding to a biblical scripture in the book of Psalms, chapter 71, verse 6. Madam Speaker, where the psalmist says, "Cast me not in the time of my old age, forsake me not when my strength fails." Madam Speaker, this is the age of the founders of the Republic of Kenya, those people who put on a lot of energy to build this nation. And this bill, Madam Speaker, is now forward-looking, to look at those who are aging after this, to take care of them. And when this is passed, Madam Speaker, we will be able to address issues that have been said by members, including the issue even of the stipends that the old people are getting, Madam Speaker. Because we know that this stipend, when it was first passed, it was based on a UN convention that does not allow anybody to live beyond $1 a day. And when that was done, Madam Speaker, the dollar was at 70 shillings. That is why when you multiply 70 by 30, you get 2,100. Right now, the dollar is way over 150. These monies should be the same level at below $1 a day, where nobody is supposed to live. This board, that when it comes to effect, will always be reminding government and the legislators and the people of the Republic of Kenya that nobody should live below $1 a day. And Madam Speaker, when you go to the West, the elderly are not even bothered about their children because they established bills that took care of their old age when they were still young, Madam Speaker. And therefore, when you are in the US, when someone gets aged, he has money and stipends and all these and they can admit themselves even to the elderly homes and live a good life awaiting their maker to call them Madam Speaker. So a lot of concerns, Madam Speaker, that have been raised by members here will be taken care during the committee of the whole where we will seek to amend the bill to capture not a more scientific name like the geriatric bills, but a name that is easily understood by the people of Kenya. But by and large, Madam Speaker, I seek to support this bill and say that it is progressive and it is timely. It is going to create a more happy and a prosperous Kenya, especially for the aged. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Mary Emase, member. For Teso South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to, first of all, appreciate Honorable Mchomba. Let's applaud her for this very good bill that she's brought before the House that seeks to create or establish a council for the elderly persons. Indeed, Madam Speaker, even in the absence of Article 57, the Constitution does prohibit discrimination on the basis of age or otherwise. So it is actually a right, and it's an obligation to the state, not only to protect the elderly people, but to promote and encourage initiatives, including financing programs that address the welfare of the elderly persons. Madam Speaker, establishing a council, I think, is the right thing to do, because as Honorable Mchomba has rightfully put it, the youth have a council. Persons with disability have a council. When we have a body corporate dedicated to addressing the issues of a special group, then we are bound to, get maximum attention and therefore we'll be able to see results. And therefore, I believe this will enable the elders to be appropriately represented in all spheres of life, especially on areas that affect them. In decisions that are being made by boards, by government, in areas that affect the elderly people will be able to be represented adequately by the council, especially areas health, physical planning, their social welfare issues, among others. Madam Speaker, I would want to even appeal to the proposer, to the owner of the bill, that this bill should be made more comprehensive, more workable and acceptable. Because when we look at the elderly people in our community, most of them have been abandoned. The children have migrated to the cities to look for opportunities. There is nobody to take care of them. Probably this bill should also accommodate the aspect of developing a structure, the council to be able to develop a structure where even families, there is some incentivizing of the families to be able to support, to be able to provide that necessary support for the elderly people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even when we look at the elderly people, that is from the age of 60 and above, these are people who are still very strong, very energetic, with vast experiences, because they are from employment opportunities, from businesses, and with vast knowledge and experience. Probably also this bill should provide for how government can leverage on these experiences that our elderly people have, so that they remain active, participating in activities that promote their social well-being, instead of just abandoning these elderly people. As soon as they get out of active employment, they are abandoned, they are forgotten, and yet they can still be very useful to the society. Madam Speaker, also, I believe this council would be able to develop a structure, a proper structure on how the social welfare funds, the stipends that our elderly people are given, can be disbursed to the elderly people. Because we've had challenges. Some of them, the money, especially when they get the arrears, when it gets to 4 months, 8,000 shillings. it is taken away from them before they even get to their homes. So, or the agents who have been given the responsibility by government to disburse these funds, there have been challenges. I've had to deal with that in my own constituency in Teso South, where I had to take it upon myself, go to the banks, go to the agents, threaten to report them to the police. Then they begin to say, you know, the fingerprints was not working, I don't know what, we will pay them, and then eventually actually they go to be paid their monies. So with the council, they will be able to put proper structures, proper audit structures, and therefore it will promote accountability in the disbursement of these funds. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Honorable Mchomba for bringing up this proposal, this bill, before the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Dick Maungu, member for Luanda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given so that I can also share and give my ideas to the same. Allow me to appreciate the author of the bill for an idea well thought about, an idea that is timely, and an idea that comes to fill a gap that does exist within our legislation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the elderly, it's always said that old is gold. But in Kenya, we have not been able to treat our elderly as gold. And that has resulted as a result of a gap in our legislation. Article 57 of our Constitution is very clear about the rights of the elderly. But as captured by earlier people who've discussed, we've not been able to come up with a legislation that can give life to Article 57 of our Constitution, whereby the elderly are treated with respect, the elderly are given dignity. But as Speaker, we live in this country and we have seen many times that these elderly have been neglected by their children, by their relatives, and even the state. In some instances, we've seen these elderly being taunted as witches and what have you, Madam Speaker, and therefore tortured. This piece of legislation will go a long way in trying to address that gap, because we find that many of the times, after their productive years, these people are left to fend themselves. After the productive years, the bones are tired, the muscles are tired, and these people are actually weak. When you look at this bill, Madam Speaker, it is going to address a myriad or a number of issues that we feel have been exposing these people. Looking at the recent census that was done in 2019, Madam Speaker, Kenya's population, currently we can say it's around 50 million. 2.9% or 3% of these people are people who are 60 years and above. A group of people that has been neglected, a group of people that no one cares about them. The world of today, our young people are busy chasing after the Kenya shilling, which is so rare, Madam Speaker, and therefore live in towns and forget their elderly parents back in the villages. And therefore, having this bill address that gap, Madam Speaker, will go a long way in having the elderly's rights being respected. Recently, we were trying to have them registered for what we call the elderly, some token, Madam Speaker. And we saw masses of people come to have themselves registered. But as much as they came, Madam Speaker, for the 2,000 they get per month, it may be too little, yes, but at least it is something better than nothing, Madam Speaker. Besides that, we find that these people have got huge bills, medical bills that they need to take care of. These people, some of them live in very deplorable conditions. Houses with leaking roofs, sometimes without food, without medical attention, without warm clothing, Madam Speaker, and therefore find that their rights are actually trampled upon. And therefore, to me, this bill comes in to address a big, big gap that does exist, and therefore say that I rise to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Joseph Munyoro, member for Kigumo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I would like to congratulate my elder sister, Adonio Mushomba, for coming up with this bill.
would conflict with the definition in the Constitution, and strangely, even seeks to include volunteers, consultants, and persons who render any form of services to be public officers. The implication of that is immense. In paragraph 4, Honorable Speaker, in direct contradiction of the separation of powers and the Powers and Privileges Act and our own standing orders that has made this House self-regulating. In its wisdom, this House passed an Act of Parliament, the Powers and Privileges Act. It then also passed the standing orders and gave power to the Powers and Privileges Committee to deal with the issues in terms of conflict of interest. This bill seeks to yank that from Parliament, to yank it and assign it to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, so that the Commission would then end up regulating what even we as members of Parliament do in this Parliament. That is wrong. Every branch must be self-regulating, just the way the judiciary is and ought to be self-regulating by the Judicial Service Commission. We are self-regulating through yourself, Mr. Speaker, as the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission, and then the committee. Mr. Speaker, paragraph 5 then does something very strange. Other than trying to regulate all public officers and state officers, this bill then singles out in clause 11 only members of Parliament. It does not single out anyone else. It does not single out cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, judges, only members of Parliament, almost as if this bill is tailored to focus on members of Parliament in a very unfair way. Mr. Speaker, in clause 11.2, which is in paragraph 8 of my letter, it does something very strange. Other than requiring members of Parliament to declare whenever there's any issue of conflict of interest, it then says that wherever such a declaration is made, no member of Parliament can participate in any debate or discussion where they would benefit. The implication of that, Mr. Speaker, is that there would be no one to legislate on any issues affecting members of Parliament, because we'd all be in conflict of interest. There would be no one, and we would not even be able to deliberate on the NGAF, the NGCDF bill as we are deliberating today. There would be no one to discuss the question of salaries or pensions or car grants, because we would all be declared to have been in conflict under clause 11.2, and therefore unable to discuss anything around that. Mr. Speaker, in paragraph 10, we raise the issue in terms of declaration of income, assets, and liabilities. And this bill not only requires a public officer, like a member of Parliament, to declare their income, asset, and liability, but then it even extends to their spouse and dependent children, so that the Honorable Wanjala, who I think has just walked out, and who by his own admission is a serious polygamist, would then be required to ask his wives for full disclosure of what they owe and own, and to include in that declaration. This is a breach of Article 31 of the Constitution, and especially because once you've declared, it then becomes information held by the state, which anyone can access. The Honorable Speaker, I have raised 15 different points. I do not need to read them again because you are well seized of them. I urge that it be considered by yourself, Honorable Speaker, in addition to the report of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, so that we can seriously reconsider this bill, because this bill has the potential of harming ourselves. Self-preservation has always been the most basic human instinct. Let us not be a house that is given to self-infliction of pain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Tienda Molo. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me first thank Senior Counsel Tienda Molo for those issues, and indeed confirm that the Honorable Tienda Molo did write a letter, very detailed letter with all those 13 or 14 issues, and he did copy my office, and I remember, Honorable Speaker, discussing the same with yourself and the chair of the JLAC committee, who unfortunately is not here, but the vice chair, Honorable Mutusa, is here. And we have further discussed all the issues that were raised by the Honorable Otiende in his letter with the chair and the vice chair of the Jailer Committee. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, given an opportunity, since the chair is away, the vice chair should be able to appraise us on where fast they are in terms of looking at those issues among us, many other issues that came up during public participation, and which, as has been indicated by Senior Counsel, already some of those issues are being addressed by the Jailer Committee. Honorable Speaker, it's also worth mentioning to the Honorable Tiende Omolo that in the House Business Committee this morning, we did agree to stand down that conflict of interest bill from this afternoon sitting for Committee of the Whole. First, to allow the Jailer Committee to complete the work that they were already doing, to maybe later tomorrow or the day after, whenever time will allow, and when the House Business Committee will be able to schedule business. But Honorable Speaker, just to note that as much as I may agree with the Honorable Tiende on a number of things touching on, especially on definitions of who a relative is, who a public officer is, because that which is provided, explicitly provided for in the Constitution, we can not then seek to redefine it in statute, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and any other law that then we enact that is in conflict with the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, when I was studying commercial law in my CPA, we were told that it becomes ultra vires, and therefore any such definition that goes against what is provided for in the Constitution then will be ultra vires the Constitution and become null and void. However, Honorable Speaker, the definitions like a relative, the Constitution does not define who your relative is. But then it begs a moral question as to how far do you define who your relative is as a public officer? Your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, some that you may not even know. If they are doing business, Honorable Speaker, and they don't eat in your house, they don't depend on your pay as a public officer, they have no direct relation with you, then can you then say that there is a conflict of interest between that distant relative and yourself as a public officer? Therefore, those are issues, Honorable Speaker, that are already before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, of which I believe the Honorable Otiende Omolo is a member. I was hoping he would indicate where they are as a committee, but I am informed he was not in the meeting today, this morning, and therefore I want to believe that JLAC will be able to appraise us on the addendum they are doing that is touching on major amendments that will touch on some of these provisions that the Honorable Otiende has pointed to. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, what is this bill seeking to do? Honorable Speaker, if you read our Constitution, Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity, this bill is breathing life to the chapter on leadership and integrity, and more so on matters touching on integrity. And therefore, I would tend to disagree with the Senior Counsel on issues that touch on integrity, that they would not sit well in this bill, because they do sit well when we talk about issues to do with corruption and conflict of interest. Honorable Speaker, Article 75 of the Constitution, 75(1)(a). Honorable Speaker, if I care to read that a state officer shall, and it makes it mandatory, shall behave, whether in public and official life, in private life, or in association with other persons, in a manner that avoids a conflict of interest, any conflict between personal interests and public or official duties. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, the long objective of this bill is to actualize that particular provision of Article 75(1)(a), that you'll be avoiding conflict of interest between personal interest and public interest or official duties. B, compromising any public or official interest in favor of a personal interest or demeaning the holder of that office, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, there are many other issues, without even belaboring the point that Honorable Tiende also said, we do not need to go through all the 15 or 13 items he listed, but there are some that I would agree with, and many others that I would strongly disagree with, because they intend to actualize and breathe life to Article 75, 1A, of our Constitution. And if you are truly intent, Honorable Speaker, on slaying the monster that we all talk about, slaying the monster and the dragon of corruption, which spreads far and wide, Honorable Speaker. And I've heard the issues that are being raised on self-preservation. Even as we seek to do what we call self-preservation, Honorable Speaker, we must be careful that we do not self-preserve in a way that we entrench conflict of interest in public offices, Honorable Speaker, because we must lead from the front.
Longer time to be more productive before they get to a situation where they cannot run, they cannot walk. So as I support this bill, I would like to thank the government for ensuring that the money for the elderly is coming in a regular manner. But I would also like to call for increment of that money, because 2,000 shillings, Honorable Speaker, with the current economic situation, cannot really buy much. So if this money can be enhanced so that they are able to buy something, or even buy more so their medication, this will be a move in the right direction. So congratulations, Honorable Gathoni Mushomba, and thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to put my voice in this.
I'm made to understand that Naomi Wako, although her name appears on the screen, had already seconded this motion, so we'll have to go to the Honorable Beatrice Kemei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to be able to contribute to this very, very important bill. However, when I looked at the bill in the screen, the title, I was not able to get exactly what it was talking about. But having looked at it critically, talking about the establishment of the National Council for Elderly Persons, I started to appreciate more. So let me start to thank Honorable Wamuchomba for bringing this bill, and I believe it will go through. Honorable Speaker, elderly people are very, very important people in our society. Those are our mothers, those are our fathers, those are our grandparents. These are the carriers of wisdom. These are the people who bless the young ones. These are the people even who give names to our children. These are the people who also educate us on matters, culture. And these are the people who even foresee what will come, even in future. And for this, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that it is very important for us to have the council to be established, knowing that we already have the Youth Council, we have a council for people living with disability and many others. But when it comes to the elderly, we didn't have council for that. So today, I'm very, very happy, and I thank Mheshimiwa for bringing this bill on board. Honorable Speaker, the elderly people have been discriminated on in many occasions. Going to public places, knowing that our generation at the moment do not remember and do not know the values that we knew when we were young, and even now, that should you see an elderly person coming forth and you are seated, you move aside, you stand, and then they sit. But for our people, that is not the case. And I would want to say that this bill would not discriminate on them when it comes to matters health. Going to in hospital, going to a ward, a 17-year-old is in the same ward with a 65 or 70-year-old. That one is not the best thing, Honorable Speaker, and this bill, I believe, will take care of it. And knowing that these elderly people at the moment receive stipend, and I want to really thank the government for making it possible to make sure that every month the elderly people get their stipend. However, this amount, the 2,000, is still very low And I plead that as things improve, they need to be, this amount needs to be increased, and to make sure also that all the elderly persons are registered and they are supported. And this will also ease the dependency ratio of our people. And Honorable Speaker, many of the able age, that is the working age, have a burden to take care of the children and now the elderly. So this one will ease their issue when the elderly are taken care of. Honorable Speaker, I would also say that the elderly people needs their basic needs, that is food, clothing, shelter, and they also need security, Honorable Speaker. Looking at this, I'm a very happy person to note of this bill where we are talking about the prohibition of the abuse of the elderly people. Should this be physical or even sexually? I'm aware of many elderly women who have been abused sexually, and that one pains a lot, Honorable Speaker. So this bill will take care of that. And knowing that these elderly people also, some of them are very strong, that they are very useful in our societies. They can still do many of the chores in the homes. They can still do, maybe get a source of income, and therefore they need to be supported and they need to be encouraged, Honorable Speaker. And I would also say that looking at this bill, the priority areas needs to be taken care of, and this is where the budget comes in. More budget for the same representation, like the legal representation, so that if they have issues to do with land or any of their property, knowing that each and every person in this country is free to own any property. The elderly also are having that in mind, they own property, but sometimes, Honorable Speaker, their property is taken away. So at least when we have the legal representation for the same, it will be very, very easy for these elderly people. So Honorable Speaker, I support this one, and I pray that the title can be made in a way that it will be very easy for people to understand. Otherwise, it is qualifying the Article 57 of the Constitution. And once more, I say thank you very much, Honorable Wamuchomba, for bringing in this bill. Asante sana.
The Honorable Madam Raila, followed by the Honorable Maina Madenge.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia nami nafasi nichangie kwa hili baraza la kitaifa la wazee. Wazee ni baraka. Tunaelewa vizuri kwamba wazee wamefanya kazi wakaja wakastaafu. Lakini wao wamestaafu kwa sababu ya miaka tu kuambiwa wastaafu. Lakini tumbo halistaafu. Tumbo lata kuangaliwa vile vile kila siku. So kuna haja kubwa ya kuangaliwa hawa wazee na kupangiwa mipango mizuri ili wazee hawa wetu wawe ni baraka kwetu, isiwe ni usumbufu kwetu. Bwana Spika, wazee ni wale watu wanafaa kuchukua kuwa kwamba wamefanya kazi za nguvu, kupoteza nguvu zao, wanafaa kuangaliwa vizuri, ni wakati wao waangaliwe. Aweza kuwa watoto wakapata huo muda kuangalia, na waweza kupata watoto wakorofi wasiwe na au hakupata mafunzo vizuri au wakashikana na mambo mengine wasiangalie wazazi wao. Itakuwa ni jukumu la serikali kuangalia hawa wazee, isiwe wamewekwa kwenye vipembe au wamefungiwa kwenye nyumba. Wazee wakati huo ndo tunaona wazee wengine wanatembea. Ukienda Masai Mara, nimefanya kazi Masai Mara miaka 13. Wageni wengi na beba ni wazee. Wakati huo ndo wamekuja kutembea, pengine wamekuja na wajukuu wao au wamekuja wao wenyewe vizere viwili pengine vimekuja kutembea. Huku kwetu mambo kama hayo huyapati. Unapata vizere hivyo ni vigonjwa viko nyumbani, wamefanya kazi ngumu. Kama kule kwetu Lamu Mashariki, wazee wetu walifanya kazi ngumu sana. Manake kazi za kule ni kwenda baharini. Uende baharini, uende ukavute juya. Kuvuta juu yani unavuta kamba mpaka mikono inashika ngudi. So wazee wale wakiwa wazee wanakuwa wanahitaji matibabu mengi tofauti. Lakini wazee wetu kusema kweli walifanya kazi nzito na wanafaa kupata matibabu. Sasa hasa wale watu wangu wala mashariki matibabu hawapati kwa sababu sisi hospitali ya rufaa ambayo iko karibu kwetu ni Kenyatta Hospital. Utoke Mzee wa Kiunga, Ishakani, Mkokoni, Ndao, Kiwayu, Chandani, kutoka huko ndio nimesema wodi moja. Watoke kule mwisho waje hospitali ya rufaa ambayo inaitwa level 6 ni hapa Kenyatta Hospital. Tunafaa kuangalia zaidi. Mimi naunga mkono sana kwa sababu najua wale wangu wanaumia zaidi. Kama kuna wengine wanaumia, basi wangu wanaumia zaidi. Bwana Spika, kuna culture au dasturi za watu wengine au kitamaduni wanachukua wazee wanaofanya sasa kama ambaye washamaliza kazi yao hawafai tena. Hizo ni laana na serikali inafaa iangalie kwa karibu wale watoto ambao haangalii wazazi wao au jamii pia ambao hawapendi wazee. Hiyo mambo ya kusema mzee ni mchawi, hiyo ishtakiwe na itukuliwe adhabu kali wapatiwe. Mambo hayo yanatokea sehemu zingine. Mtu amekuzaa, amekulea, amekufanyia mambo yote kisha unaja kusema ni mchawi kwa sababu pengine wataka ardhi yake, kwa sababu pengine watoto wake wamekushinda, unasema mzee ni mchawi. Tunataka serikali katika hiyo pia iwekwe mambo ya kuwahifadhi hao wazee, ya kuwasaidia ili mambo kama hayo mtu akifanya mmoja iwe funzo kwa wengine asiweze kufanya tena. Hii kumuita inasikitisha. Yani mzee sisi tunaambiwa, tunafundishwa tuheshimu mpaka wazee wa wengine majirani zaidi hata kushinda wako. Kisha mtu upate mtu anamuita mzee mchawi, itakuwa yeye mwenyewe ndiye mchawi huyo. So itabidi katika council hii au baraza hili liangalie mbinu mbali na mambo ya matibabu na mbinu ya kuwafanya wazee au itumike kama fida wanawake washtaki na wafatilizie kesi moja ili iwe funzo kwa wengine, ili wazee wetu nao wapate heshima, wazee wetu nao waishi kama wengine. Bwana Spika, mimi kuna wakati nilienda Singapore, niliwahi kuona wazee wanatunzwa kwa mpangilio mwingine. Kazi za taxi driver, dereva wa taxi, zote zilikuwa ziko na wazee. Ukipanda gari unaona ni wazee. Hao wazee mkienda ukiweka nyumbani kwa sababu ya miaka, mfano miaka 60 yeye astaafu, unaenda kumwambia aende akakae kama hajajipanga vizuri, hana biashara, hana mambo mengi, unaenda kumwambia kaa ungoje kifo au kaa ungoje kupewa. Kwa nini kusiwe na mipango ya hawa wazee wakapawa ile hope, yani kuwapa na wao wajue, wape moyo kwamba baada kustaafu kuna mengine unaweza fanya. So kwa mtindo huu inaweza pangiwa mambo fulani mazuri ambao wazee kila wakati watakuwa wakienda na wakiendelea na maisha. Bwana Spika, nimelitangulia kusema kwamba wazee ni baraka na wazee wanastaafu lakini tumbo halistaafu. Kwa hivyo nataka niombe kuwe na mikakati ambayo itachukua hawa wazee iwe waendelee kufanya kazi hata kama ndogo ndogo, kama wamekosa zile kazi zingine lakini wapewe kazi zingine wakiendelea wakingojea. Manake sisi tunaambiwa watu wanaona kama ni baada after 60 ndio wanaenda wanakaa wangoje kufa. Kufa ni ya Mungu. Sisi mzee anaweza kufa kijana, anaweza kufa mzee. Lakini tukiwaacha tu wakae hivyo haitawasaidia. Asante Bwana Spika.
The MP for Nyeri Town, Madenge, followed by the MP for Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice to congratulate the Honorable Gathoni wa Musyoba for the timely presentation in the Parliament of this bill to give life to Article 57 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, however, when we look at holistically at the kind of life that the elderly people are living in our country, and especially those who have served our government in different capacities in the past. The saddest story is the story of teachers who taught and retired during the Moi era, and up to now, their pensions have never been paid. A lot of them have passed on, waiting for these pensions. And this framework provides for a firm and solid way of dealing with some of these issues. The second area, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of food and nutrition security for our elderly people. That with age, they are over their productive years. And therefore, as a country, we have a duty of care to them. And therefore, the issue of providing food, even as we provide relief food, the question of how organized we are as a country in providing not only just food to fill the stomach, but food that is able to respond to the nutritional needs of our elderly people. The other area, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of health services. We know that with age, the health expenditures and health bills drastically increase. At that age, most of these people are suffering from the non-communicable diseases, which are much more difficult and much more expensive to treat. A provision within the requirements of provision of health services to support them with expensive drugs for diabetes, hypertension, eye treatment, and mobility aids for those with arthritis is an area that we can expand in the bill. Mr. Speaker, a lot of our people at that age, the elderly, are also living in very deplorable conditions. The provision of shelter for our people, and especially now that we have these affordable housing projects, the affordable housing program should also be specifically tailor-made to respond to the needs of our elderly. Mr. Speaker, the other saddest part is the kind of times that our elderly people have to spend in the corridors of justice when they are pursuing succession and land cases. And again, this is an area where this bill can be improved to provide explicit provisions, including timelines for when cases involving the elderly must be dealt with and concluded within our corridors of justice. So once again, I want to congratulate Honorable Musyoba, and I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Buri, followed by the MP for Bondo.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Followed by the MP for Central Imenti. Yeah.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity. I rarely agree with Honorable Gathoni Musyoba on many things, but on this one, I truly agree with her. Mr. Speaker, this bill has come the right time. We cannot leave our senior citizens behind as we move forth. Why? Because they gave birth to us, they fought for our freedom, they took us to school, they worked for us, they are farmers, civil servants, etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, these people are the foundation of our society, and therefore, this bill, as it is recognized in the Constitution and Article 57, they have a right like any other Kenyan citizen. And having benefited from them is the right thing that we can do, is to give them comfort in their last days on earth. Mr. Speaker, this bill is going to improve the living conditions of our elderly citizens. Mr. Speaker, we all come from rural areas and even urban centers. It's as like these people, they are not treated like anybody else. We have been talking of civil servants, members of parliament, teachers, etc. This is a very strong constituency of Kenyans. They need attention in terms of medical facilities. They need attention in terms of feeding programs. They need to be recognized by the society and even by the government. They need social comfort, Mr. Speaker. If you visit US, UK, the developed world, you always find home for the elderly. And the state takes full responsibility of these senior citizens. I think Kenya is mature enough now to recognize and to move forward in ensuring that our senior citizens have the best of everything. Mr. Speaker, this bill is going to set forth an operation, an authority or commission to be in charge of these elderly people. And I agree that money must be put and adequate money must be put. I also agree with the incoming Madam Speaker when she said that we need to institute research on the elderly. I totally support that. Now we need statistics every year generated through Kenyan Bureau of Statistics to determine the number of people according to the age classifications and specifically those over 70 years. It is through that we will be able to know the kind of resources and distribution of those resources that the government need to put in place. Mr. Speaker, we as a House, we need to apologize to the elderly because there is a line item on the amount of money being allocated for the elderly has never been given significant attention in this House. And moving forward, it is my view and my conviction that we need to put more money for the elderly. I agree the 2,000 shillings, even in terms of value, is not adequate. I think this minimum people they need to is 5,000 every month. So, Madam Speaker, as I congratulate Madam Kadhonwa Mushomba, let's also remind ourselves, as a society, we have failed. Many people rarely go to take care of their parents. Many people rarely go to the rural areas. Once we vacate the rural areas, many of us rarely go back. I challenge the Kenyan society today that we need to make it compulsory. Every person must take care of his or her parent. And I think, Wamshomba, you need to look at that. That you cannot leave your father and mother. You have a
ensuring that there is absolutely no conflict of interest by public officers. And public officers, I want to agree with the Honorable Otiende Amolo in that respect, that a public officer does not necessarily mean an elective office or people holding elective offices. It is not just members of parliament and members of county assemblies. We have governors, we have the executive, right from the president to the ministers and the principal secretaries who are in appointive offices. All those, Honorable Speaker, we must hold them to account using this bill and ensure that even as we seek to self-preserve, we also enact laws that will hold everybody, even members of parliament, Honorable Speaker, and members of county assemblies, and even governors and presidents and deputy presidents who are elective to account and to ensure that there is absolutely no conflict of interest in the way they conduct public office, and there is a clear demarcation between your public affairs and your private business interests. Because, Honorable Speaker, if we are left in a situation where there is a blood distinction between what is private and what is public, Honorable Speaker, the era that we have been speaking of state capture will never come to an end. This is the opportunity we have as a house, and the country and history will judge us based on what we do with this bill. If we speak so much about the fight against corruption, and every time there is mention of a scandal here and there, the political class are usually the first to speak against corruption. Let us not just speak about against corruption and speak about corruption. Let us act. Let us enact laws that will ensure that there is no corruption, there is no conflict of interest, and in line with what we provided for when we elected to have this constitution as the supreme law of our country, that we actualize the provisions of Article 6, and specifically that 75, 1A and B that I have read. With that, Honorable Speaker, I do want to submit, Honorable Speaker, that we hold our horses as we await the JLA committee to table the addendum, and we be able to see what is it that they have proposed for amendments. And that is not to say, Honorable Speaker, that what JLAC will have proposed as amendments, if they do not carry an amendment that I intend to move, nothing, Honorable Speaker, stops any member of this House from moving an amendment to rectify what they think should be rectified in the bill. And if it makes sense, Honorable Speaker, without diluting the objectives of the bill, we shall support. But we must also do so in a cautious manner. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg that we allow the JLA committee to finish their work and appraise the House accordingly. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ocheng. Yes, I'll come to you. I've given to David Ocheng.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to add my voice on this particular matter, and I agree with Honorable Tiende that there are issues that
give to David Ocheng the mic.
There are issues we need to address going forward, Mr. Speaker. I was so worried when I saw the bill in the draft order paper this morning, and I want to thank you and thank the House Bills Committee for seeing the sense in putting the bill.
What's happening to the mic?
But, Mr. Speaker, the biggest issue...
Order, honorable members. I want to hear order.
Mr. Speaker, the biggest issue...
Order, Irene Kasalo and your team.
Mr. Speaker, the reason I believe this bill...
Order. I'm being called upon to make a ruling on a bill before you. Give me an opportunity to hear.
Mr. Speaker, the reason I believe this bill is very urgent is that sometimes we think about things in a very pedantic way, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this country today is in this place it's in because we have allowed every government official to do business at every corner. And like I said last week, Mr. Speaker, the reason we're even having issues of liquidity is that we are allowing everybody, including members of parliament, to do business, but because...
Thank you very much.
The Honorable Gideon Ochanda, member for Bondo.
Thanks a lot, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if nature is good to your members, then all of us are basically talking about the subject matter on us. All of us are going to get to this stage if you are not yet there already. We are really the subject matter here. Madam Speaker, what we have had in this country or in many other third world countries is the little care that is placed on issues of social security, whether it is health, whether it is issues of pensions, whether there are issues of gratuities. I think there's been a major problem that we've had, more so as Kenya. At the moment, you can categorize elders in very many ways. There are those who are old because of age and they have not been in any skilled service. There are those who have been in skilled service. There are those who have been really professionals in terms of what they have been doing before. But on retirement, they are either are looked at the same, yet many retire, but they are never tired. You look at the kind of problem we have, particularly in education now with the teachers. I know parents are paying for close to half of what TSC is paying in the name of BOM teachers or board teachers. Yet, each year, there are very many people, many professional teachers who retire at 60. And then you realize that between 60 and 70, many of them still have the energy to engage. And that happens also even with other different professionals, including those who are in the disciplined services. We have clear arrangements like in the veteran organization, veteran programs, that really give space for those who retire to engage differently. And you know, once you retire and retire to nothing, chances of you dying much more faster are higher than when somebody retires and retires to some engagement. Retiring to something that still engages you, retiring to say that you appear like you have not retired, your life gets a little bit enhanced. Yet we are in a situation now where elders are operating or surviving in all manner of odds. The returns in terms of what they are doing has been reducing. Cultures are changed. Many communities are no longer placing elders where they were before. Pensioners, their money gets down with age. The more older you become, the more your pension reduces. So if you look at all these things, there are all manner of odds against the elders. And some very clear-cut program must be placed in front of them. In this country, we are talking about a life expectancy, if I checked last, was 62 years or 60, the life expectancy. That means that the group that we are talking about, their numbers have been reducing over a period of time. And if we check properly, it is a number that cannot help, the government can fail to support. The numbers have been reducing over a period of time. And if you put them in the categories that I was talking about, those that were professionals, and you still link them with their professional career, link them around what they were doing, in as much as you can give them some little support here and there, but they are linked such that they are busy, they are engaged. Those that are with skills, can they guide some different groupings? Can you have these village polytechnics, for example, encourage all manner of elders who had skills to be around the schools, to be around the institutions? Then we'll end up with a small group, a small number of those who are retired or those who are getting old minus any skills, those who are depending basically on their labor. And I think it's easy. The government can plan this and it can be done. And it can be done virtually in every location if there are programs, if there was a clear will to do it. These people can be in homes, these people can be in their own homes, but there's an arrangement where they can eat, they can be serviced health-wise, they can get different... what I learned the other day that brings most of these elders down is basically food, water, because some of them can't wash their clothes, and then the disease, small little diseases bring them down. So, Madam Speaker, I think with a clear programmatic approach, we are able as a country and as a government to take care of our elders beyond what we are doing at the moment. 2,000 with the kind of life situation that we are in is not enough. And even if it were enough, the way it is disbursed is so absurd. And the kind of a data that we've been picking for the last 3 or so months, I think there's a problem sometimes in this country. Just counting how many are 60 plus and above is a challenge. The other time we have failed, in fact we have failed more than 10 years now, just to identify indigents that were supposed to be supported under universal health cover. I think there's a big problem in this country, Madam Speaker, that needs to be sorted out. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Moses Kirima, Member for Central Imenti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important bill brought by my colleague Adoni Wamuchomba. Madam Speaker, this bill is timely, taking into account that the population in Kenya, especially the aging group, is increasing in number due to improved medical facilities and improved dietary values which Kenyans are accommodating these days. It's their time that we should think of how to take care of the aged ones, taking into account that each and everybody plays to reach her old age. In developed countries, aged people are valued so much in a way that when the government is making policies, it usually consider them and give them value for what they had contributed during their early days, up to and including giving them mentors, recognizing them as veterans, and all kind of adulations to at least recognize their previous contributions to the welfare of the society. And that's why in Kenya, as we speak, the aged are not given priority so much, because at no time when you find that the government is having a policy of the aged, at no time when you find that the aged are given value of any kind other than the stipend of only 2,000 shillings per month, of which also rarely reach all of them. I do remember, like my mother, who died at the age of 89. She had registered for this stipend of 2,000 shillings, but she never received it until she went to the grave. And not alone, I'm just giving us an example in the village. There are many who do not even get that 2,000 shillings. Many intermediaries and many brokers in between the government and the banks where this money is channeled through get in between, and the money never reach the right people, but a certain percentage get it. So, Madam Speaker, my contribution is that the government should take or should be serious when addressing aged people issues, to the effect that if you go around the country now, you find many organizations, particularly individuals, coming out with old, aged people homes to take care of them. For the society has changed. It's not like the ordinary African society we used to have, whereby the youth or the young ones were taken care of by the aged with the hope of reciprocating the same at a particular time of age, whereby the young ones used to feed, light the fire, take care of the aged, but things have changed. These days, if the youth have a chance, they even dispose the properties of the aged ones, and they leave the aged ones in desperate and in destitute. So this bill is timely, and it's my prayer that when it comes to addressing the issues, as it comes to implementing this bill, we should consider the homes which are being established. Where do these aged ones go at a particular time when they are unable or when they have nobody to take care of them at their homes, when they cannot be able to feed themselves, when they are abandoned by their siblings in the rural areas and the siblings are moved to the urban areas. With those few remarks, I hereby support the same bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Shakil Shabil. And it is important to note that your card has not been working.
Yes.
Honorable members, also the card for the Honorable Kenga Mupe. I have seen you there since we started, and your card is not indicating anywhere. So I'll be giving you a chance at some point, Honorable Kenga Mupe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for indulging. As you said, some of these cards are not working. We sit here in the hope that they are recording, but they're not. And I hope that the Sergeant at Arms and those who are looking after this house, this august house, will have these machines serviced. Madam Speaker, I speak from a position of knowledge. In my earlier days, and even now, we set up a home for the elderly in England. That home had worked for something like 30 years. My family worked very hard, and even my sister-in-law was even awarded by the Queen for the work she did for the care of the elderly. So elderly in our family is in our genes. In our culture, the African culture, the Kenyan culture, even mine, whether the Luo culture, not only do we are meant to respect the elderly, but we also respect the spirits of our ancestors, which is even going further. The elderly are very much part and parcel of our society. And I don't understand what is happening to Kenya, what is happening to our people, where we are now ignoring and throwing our elderly away. There are cases in Kisii where people, the elderly, are being burnt as witches just because the children want to take over the properties. It is a sad state of affairs, and it tells us the society that we are in is degrading very fast. And the children and the elderly are the two pillars of our society, of our family. If our family values and our family culture cannot be supported, we are going to the dogs. We are going, and I think, as we say, the end of the world is close, because if we don't do this, and we cannot respect our elderly, we cannot respect our children, what are we doing? 90% of the workers here, nurses of this country, are in the UK, in the USA, in Japan, in wherever. I saw a big advert the other day. We are giving special visas for carers. Our people are going to care for some foreigners for money, yet they're leaving their own elderly behind. They're leaving their own elders behind. I think that we have Kenya as a culture. As much as I support, I did agree, may not have supported the housing levy. If there was something called an elder's levy, elderly's levy, I would very much be part and parcel of that thing. I would want to contribute a certain percentage of my money to that. I firstly don't agree with the title, and I'm putting my amendment there, geriatric bill. And as much as my honorable member of parliament who has put that name there, I think that takes away the dignity of the elderly. I don't know why geriatric care. Geriatric care is a medical term, and I think we need to give this a more human touch. The National Council for the Care for the Elderly is again a good idea, but the social services are there. There is a directorate. I don't see why we need another national council. Everybody will come. The CEO will want a four-wheel drive. They will need this. They will need that. This will take up a lot of money. I think there's a directorate for the elderly, which we can form very much within there and allow the directorate to hold. The directorate for the we also need some sort of format or rules of what elderly care requires. Whether there is care home for the elderly, the residential care home, the daycare centers, the community health. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, when we ignore our children and don't send them to primary school, we commit an offense. I would suggest that we look at an offense, that if we do not take care of our parents, we would be committing an offense. The stipend of 2,000 is a joke. In my constituency, over 200,000 people, no, less than maybe 100, 120 get this 2,000 when they get it. Sometimes it takes 6 months. And then those are also stolen by other conmen and other people who come, even their grandchildren, who take the money away. The abuse of the elderly has been there. We have taken no action right now on that home that took place the other day where they've been beating up the elderly. And I think this is very important, that not only this, but we must have a framework so that we can put what is called effective action. Madam Speaker, the president of Rwanda about 10 years ago taught me this, that this is very good to have vision, but vision without implementation is hallucination. We hope that this geriatric bill, or what we hope to change the name, will be able to put in force immediately. It is passed, some structure, some format, some template, so that we can have we have the directorate, or what do you call it, the National Council, whatever we call it, to help the aged. These aged are quality people. I have some people who are professors. Professor Bethel Ogot, for one. He's nearly 95 years old, but he has got the brains better than me. I myself, Madam Chair, I'm 70 years old, so you'll call me an elderly soon. Where will I go? Is there an elderly home for old parliamentarians? I don't know whether, I know there isn't. But what do we do with our old parliamentarians? I've seen some of them who have been leaders sitting at home, rotting and doing nothing. Even the pension that they get is peanuts. So I think what we need to do, the elderly must be cared for as a priority. The children must be cared for as a priority. Long gone are the times where I think in Europe now, people take care of their cats, people take care of their dogs more than they take care of their own family. Because we go from here at a cost to go and take care of the elderly, clean them up. They are not all elderly, are not senile. The all elderly are not dementia. The situation is, even if they are senile, even if they are dementia, and even if they are looking like mad, they were here. They have a right to this country, more right than the young, and more right that they have been there in the fight for this independence of this country. I hardly see an elderly person being given any recognition. I mean, Didier Kimathi, for one, the old who passed away, his own wife was not treated well. And there are so many who are not treated well. The elderly must be given recognition by the state, recognition by the county governments, recognition by the authorities. I was in Germany and I wanted to get on a train, and I was buying the ticket and I was told, no, you are elderly over 65, you don't need a ticket. I still wanted to buy. I went to an orchestra and I wanted to pay. They said, no, yours is half price. What happens here in this country is they charge you even more. If you're in a matatu and you're an elderly, they charge you even more. So I think I do recommend, I support very much this bill. I do urge my members of parliament, let us look at this, let us strengthen it, let it give it the bite that it requires, and let's look after the elderly the way they looked after us in our youth. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for indulgence, and thank the House, and I thank the sponsor of the bill. Asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, you may choose to speak for 5 minutes. I'm saying you may because we did not limit time at the beginning of the motion, so that a few more of you can speak, because I'm just looking at the screen and many people have expressed interest. We will now go to the Honorable Andrew Okome, member for Karachonyo. And I'm informed that you are the most senior in terms of age. Yes. So you may have something to say about this. Move to the next mic.
Madam Speaker, thanks so much for giving me this opportunity. And when I want to contribute to this motion, Madam Speaker, directly in front of you and on my left, I see a very noble writing saying, this house is for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. Our elderly are part of our society, right from the family level, community level, up to national level. I'm very happy that this bill is trying to address very seriously the issue of the welfare of our aged. Madam Speaker, a society that cannot take care of their aged, I would say it's a sick society. It is an unjust society. It is non-caring society. I know this house is not for that. And based on what I've just said, I automatically support this motion. If a council is created that will be taking care or looking after the care of our aged, we will have established a system that can even make longer the lives of these aged people we are talking about. Knowing that Kenya cares for them is medicinal. It cures them, it strengthens their lives, it gives them good health, it increases their lives. That's why the creation of this council will be a very important step. And then this society will also be taking care of this age through possibly the family as the beginning. Because the family knows this particular aged person we are talking about more than any other person. We need to know more, or the council needs to know more of what's happening with this particular aged person through the member or through members of the family of that aged person. And then we progress to the community as a whole, so that the community can also be encouraged by law to ensure that the aged in their community do enjoy the remaining part of their lives. We can then progress until we reach the nation where the council is. And when we talk of taking care of the aged, Madam Speaker, we are not just talking of financial provision to the aged. We will be looking at the shelter of the aged. We know some of these aged do not even have shelter. They don't have houses. The nation can ensure that this essential requirement in life, that is the housing, is provided to the aged person. In this shelter or the house, if this person has it, the aged has it, we can progress to find out whether he can eat in that house. It is important. And the person who knows this best are people who are within the family of that aged person. Whether nuclear family or extended, they have better knowledge of knowing whether this person is going with no food at all in his house. Madam Speaker, we can then proceed on and see whether this person really enjoys his life without people coming to molest him or harm him in any way. That again can only be done starting with a grassroots areas like I've said. I feel this bill is good. It is going to help us address the needs of those in the age bracket we are talking about. It is time for us to support a bill like this and ensure this bill succeeds. so that we can be able to pride ourselves when we watch our aged and see them healthy, happy, and doing well. Once a situation like that is on in our society, then we can be able to justify what I started with, that is written on my left and in your front, that this house, and therefore Kenya as a whole, is for the welfare of our society and the just government of our people. Madam Speaker, I rest my case.
Thank you. The Honorable Dorothy Ikiara, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to support this very important bill, that is the bill of the National Assembly, number 50 of 2022. And I wish to thank Honorable Gathoni Wamuchomba, MP, Githunguri constituency, for coming up with this very, very important bill. Honorable Speaker, it's important for all of us to appreciate that old age is a blessing. Further to that, Honorable Speaker, every person who is born will one day grow old. And as we look at this bill, Honorable Speaker, it's important to think that we are not talking of people who are far away from us. We are also ending towards that age to be called elderly. Honorable Speaker, personally, I have no problem with the title, geriatric bill title, because this means it's a special area of medicine that focuses strictly on providing care for the unique health needs of older adults. It is good for all of us to appreciate, Honorable Speaker, that as we grow old, old age comes with its own unique challenges. And it is one thing to appreciate because, Honorable Speaker, if you grow old without health issues, then you must be very lucky. But in one way or the other, you need a lot of attention. Honorable Speaker, as I go deeper into this particular bill, I want to appreciate the government of Kenya, Kenya Kwanza government, because it is the responsibility of every responsible government to think of each and every citizen. And I want to appreciate the Kenya Kwanza government as put in measures already to start looking into the matters of elderly people. The government has initiated the healthcare workers, and the work of these healthcare workers is to go around the villages, and I'm sure the target of the healthcare workers is to actually attend to the elderly, because the young people can walk to the nearest health centers. Number two, I want to appreciate the government because Kenya Kwanza government has come out openly to increase the national NSSF, National Social Security Fund. Remember, for a long time, people used to contribute mega cents in form of old age or their retirement benefit. But today, the government has initiated the National Social Security Fund, which will ensure that every person who is retiring will be able to go home with something which is reasonable and something that can take care of their welfare. Honorable Speaker, but I am also equally disappointed because when we talk of the elderly people, especially people who have worked for this government responsibly, faithfully, and reaching the time of retirement, like the doctors, like other workers in the country, teachers, after retirement, Honorable Speaker, these people are languishing in upbeat poverty because their pensions never come on time. They keep on tarmacking, waiting for them once they are out of the payroll, they don't know who to turn to. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge that this government should start hyping their game and taking care and appreciating people who have worked for the government tirelessly by rewarding them in a very timely manner. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, I want to say this particular bill is coming up to establish a council that will ensure efficiency in provision of services to the elderly. Honorable Speaker, it's good for all of us to note that families now are growing smaller. Our families are shrinking. Some years back, parents used to have 5 children, 6 children, and some would be stationed at home and they would oversee their parents at old age. But the families of these days, they are so small that you cannot you can't ensure that all your children stay at home to take care of you. So this council, Honorable Speaker, when established, it will have a responsibility of ensuring that they have a data and they know where each and every elderly person is and know even their needs. Honorable Speaker, this particular council will be also entitled to ensure that when money is disbursed to the elderly, unlike today, where every person who is the people who are in charge of this elderly cash transfer, we don't know if the money reaches the right people. But when we have a council which is in place, there will be mechanism to ensure that even if the government is giving stipend to these elderly people, this money will be able to reach them on time. Honorable Speaker, it is important for all of us also to understand that this bill, if it goes through, we must have a funding. Because, Honorable Speaker, there is no way we can have taking care of the elderly when we don't have adequate funding for them. And this adequate funding will ensure that we not only accommodate the elderly in very special homes, keeping them, we also are able to provide nutrition, proper nutrition for them, Honorable Speaker. Because if we go to the families of the elderly people, you realize most of them are not sick. Most of them are lacking proper nutrition. And this proper nutrition can only be provided for by the government. And this is where we have made a mistake of assuming that old people can be able to go source for their own food. So if we can get a mechanism and a way of ensuring that...
What is out of order, Honorable KJ?
Madam Speaker, it is not in my interest to interrupt my teacher, the Honorable Ikiara. However, Madam Speaker, I want to know if I would be in order. Noting the journey that this bill has gone through, this bill was actually introduced in the last session, in the last parliament, Madam Speaker. And I'm seeing a golden opportunity this afternoon for us to be able to finalize on this bill so that it can be proceeded to the next stage. And Madam Speaker, I know there is a lot of interest to speak, but listening to the House all this morning and even up to now, I can tell there is great support for the bill. And I'm sure even members will be keen for it to proceed into the third reading so that we can be able to expand with this business so that the implementation starts soon as possible. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to know if I would be in order to invoke Standing Order 95 so that we take this beautiful opportunity to have the mover reply so that we can proceed to the next level, other than postpone this business to a later session when we don't know if this bill will be concluded. And Madam Speaker, I would invoke if you would agree with me, I would ask the mover to also be magnanimous to donate a few minutes to the members who had shown great interest to speak as she is replying. But we can take advantage of this opportunity we have to move this bill forward. Madam Speaker, that is the point I wanted to raise.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kiarie. What you are saying is quite in order. I will be calling upon the mover to reply at some point, and I hope you'll be magnanimous to share the minutes that you have for replying to the many members on the screen who would like to make a comment. But for now, I'll give you a minute. You had 1 minute left. Make it 1 minute. Conclude. From there, I would give this opportunity to the Honorable Kengampe after.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, I want to say funding through the years has been inadequate, and it has not been sufficient enough to accommodate all our elderly people. And with the council coming in, we shall have proper figures of how many elderly people we have, and this will enable the government to fully support and take care of our elderly people. Madam Speaker, I also want to say, with the government affordable housing, even our elderly people who have nowhere to stay, because we know the basic needs in life are food, clothing, and shelter, we can be able to accommodate them somewhere so that the government can take care of them from a central area. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge Madam.
No, I just realized that the Honorable KG has also lost his opportunity to speak on this motion. You just lost the opportunity. You raised that the mover be called to reply. So now I will go to the Honorable Susan Duyo. She has really been waiting. Member for Tharaka Nithi. Take a seat, Honorable Susan. The Honorable Kengampe. I'll come to you, Honorable Susan.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nami nasimama kuunga mkono huu mswada wa kuweza kubunishwa kwa baraza la kitaifa la wazee. Nichukue fursa hii pia kuweza kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Gathoni wa Mchomba kwa kuweza kuleta mswada huu wa maana katika ili bunge la kitaifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niseme kwamba katika utamaduni wetu wa Kiafrika tunatakana tuheshimu wazee, kwa sababu wazee katika jamii ni wazee ambao ni kioo katika jamii. Na ndio maana nataka kusimama hapa na mimi nikiwa mbunge wa Rabai nikiunga mswada huu, kwa sababu wazee wetu ambao wote wamefikisha umri wa miaka 60 kule katika vijiji, wazee hawa wanatengwa, wanabaguliwa, na ni wakati mwafaka kama huu wazee kama hawa waweze kupata msaada. Mimi naunga mkono mswada huu nikisema kwamba serikali itenge hazina ya pesa ambayo itahakikisha kwamba wale wazee wote ambao wako na miaka 60 wanawezeshwa ili waweze kukimu mahitaji yao ya kimaisha. Wazee kama hawa pia waweze kupewa bima ya afya ili waweze kuhakikisha kwamba wazee hawa wanapokuwa wamegonjeka wawe wanaweza kwenda hospitali kupata huduma bila kulipa pesa zozote. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia niseme kwamba hawa wazee wanastahili pia wawe wanapewa chakula. Hawa wazee wamekuwa ni kioo katika taifa, ni kioo katika jamii. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niseme kwamba katika eneo bunge langu wazee wale wote wamefikisha miaka 60 na kuendelea wamekuwa wanaitwa wachawi, na inafikia wakati kwamba wazee hao wanauawa kwa sababu ya kuweza kupokonywa rasilimali zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, niseme kwamba katika eneo bunge la Rabai niko na wodi ambayo inaitwa Mwawesa. Kuna vijiji kama vile Bwagamoyo, Ngare, Ngindo, ni vijiji ambavyo kufikia leo Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna wazee zaidi ya 100
waliweza kuuawa kwa sababu ya taaluma ya kwamba hao ni wachawi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nasimama hapa nikisimama hapa naunga mkono kikamilifu kwamba baraza la kitaifa la wazee litakapokuwa limeweza kuundwa, wazee kama hawa wataweza kutetewa rasilimali zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nimpongeze Rais wetu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Rais RUTO, kwa sababu pia yeye tunaona kwamba wale wazee wote wa miaka 70 hivi sasa wameanza kutengewa pesa, na hivi ninavyosema wameanza kupata pesa zile. Nasimama hapa Mheshimiwa Spika kuunga hoja hiyo. Ninasema kwamba asante sana Mheshimiwa Gathoni wa Mchomba kwa kuleta mswada huu. Asante.
Asante. Mheshimiwa Susan Nduyo, member for Tharaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I belong to the Committee on Social Protection, where this bill was presented by Honorable Gathoni wa Mchomba in detail, so I understand what the bill is all about. Honorable Speaker, this is a bill that is really going to assist us, especially as women reps who are dealing with the affirmative action groups like the elderly. Honorable Speaker, we would wish that the elderly be treated like any other special group in the village. We've seen departments on children, we've seen departments on youth. We also want to see departments dealing with elderly persons and officers in those offices to help us handle these senior citizens. Honorable Speaker, we are aware that the elderly are the custodians of indigenous knowledge. Sometimes I helplessly look at them when they're getting buried with their knowledge, some of them buried just because of not having anyone to protect them. We thank God that we have Article 57 of the Constitution that talks about protecting the elderly. Honorable Speaker, we want to know, and in this bill, we wanted to deal with studies on people who are elderly. Honorable Speaker, we've seen universities and other institutions of higher learning having departments on pediatrics. We've seen departments on gynecology and other sections, Honorable Speaker. We want to see our universities and other institutions having departments on gerontology, where our children and the students can be taught on how to deal with the elderly.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Tharaka. Thank you. You may take your seat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, the Honorable Member for Dagoretti rose on his feet and quoted Standing Order number 95 and indicated that we call upon the mover to reply, and I would like to put this to the House. Is it the mood of the House that I call upon the mover to reply? As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. So, Honorable Mchomba. Mchomba, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And
you can choose to be as magnanimous as possible. You have 10 minutes.
I will try to align to the new name that the people of Githunguri has given me. They are calling me the mother of the sub-county, so I am going to also adopt the name today and say I'm going to be the mother of the hour. And being the mother of the hour, then I want to donate my time to the honorable members who have been here patiently, wanting to give a positive support to this bill. And I wish to donate my time to one Honorable Fred Ikana, MP for Shinyalu, who is seated with me here. 3 minutes. I would want to consider the Honorable Phyllis Balto. Honorable Phyllis Balto is the MP for Moiben. 3 minutes. Honorable Taitum.
The Honorable Gathoni, I would like to guide that. Give them 1 minute.
Okay.
So that you give as many as you would like to. You only have 10 minutes.
Obliged,
so that
Madam
you can
Speaker.
give 8 and then possibly 2 minutes for you to continue.
Obliged, Madam Speaker. So I revise my time to Honorable Fred Ikana, 1 minute. Honorable Phyllis Balto, 1 minute. Honorable Jerry Maina, 1 minute. Honorable Taitumu, 1 minute. Honorable Kate Omanyo, 1 minute. Catherine Omanyo. I can't see, my eyesight is failing me. Mjumbe kutoka Magarini, 1 minute. Honorable Kajiado South, member for Kajiado South, 1 minute. And there is my brother there, my senior brother there. The lady from Kasipul Kabondo, 1 minute, thank you.
For Matayos, 1 minute each.
Asante. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante kwa nafasi hii. Ningependa kuchukua fursa hii kwanza kabisa kumshukuru dada yangu Mheshimiwa Gathoni wa Muchomba kwa kutuletea mswada huu ambao unalenga kuimarisha maisha ya wazee wetu. Mimi kama mbunge wa Shinyalu naunga mkono mswada huu vikamilifu kwa sababu najua wakati umefika mwafaka wa kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunazingatia masuala ambayo yatawasaidia wazee hawa wetu waweze kuishi maisha bora, ikiwemo kupata bima ya afya na pia kupata mapato angalau ya kuwawezesha kuishi maisha kama wananchi ambao wanapaswa kuheshimika. Kwa hayo naunga mkono. Asante.
Honorable Barto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of my people from Moiben constituency to support this bill by Honorable Wamushomba, and I can assure you that the elderly will be very happy because of this bill. And Madam Speaker, how I hope in future we will look at providing shelter for those who are not able, for those who don't have places to stay or people to take care of them, and even at some point provide food for the elderly. Otherwise, because of time, I strongly support this bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let also support and actually congratulate Madam Wambusomba.
I want to put that name correctly. It is Honorable Taitumu.
Thank you for the correction. I'm now also impressed. Madam Speaker, let me take the cue to congratulate Oni Wambusomba for coming up with this very, very noble bill that seeks to actualize the Article 57 of the Constitution by coming up with a very important council that seeks to come up with measures that will take care, particularly for the elderly people in our country. Madam Speaker, we have very many Kenyans who are joining this bracket coming from very deprived environment, very deprived background. And if this bill is really actualized, it means that these people from...
The Honorable Manyo, Catherine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support fully. The elderly, we must keep giving them dignity and respect. Most of them had all the energy and the money and the titles, but with time, everything degenerates. So as we think ahead, let us keep thinking of even us and our children who will come. Where can they have a soft landing and still have dignity and respect? That is one way of giving back to our parents and people who took care of us when we also were in need. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Kombe.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, na pongezi kwake Mheshimiwa Gathoni kwa kuleta mswada huu. Mheshimiwa Spika, hakika ni jambo la busara kwamba bunge hili likaweze kupitisha mswada huu na ukaweze kutimizwa. Hakika kunapokuwa na vituo vya kulinda na kuhifadhi wazee, Mheshimiwa Spika, hata baadhi yetu nafikiri wataweza kufaidi katika mswada huu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna wabunge wengi ambao wamekuwa wakiishi maisha ya tabu, shida na mashaka wakati wakiwa na umri wa juu, na hivi vituo hivi vitaweza kusaidia.
Honorable Maina, Jerry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the bill by Gathoni wa Mushomba, and Lord, the same Honorable Speaker, I note that it has a provision for care centers in the respective counties, Honorable Speaker, so that we ensure that we take care of the elderly in the community, Honorable Speaker. It is unfortunate that we have neglected the elderly in our communities from the very basic communal level, Honorable Speaker. I therefore support this so that we ensure that we take care of the people who made sure that we are here today. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Parashina.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I need to congratulate my sister, Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba, the Kiambu finest. Madam Speaker, the bill has come at the right time. By the establishment of the National Council for the Elderly, one will take care of them, of that group. This is a group that have been isolated, Madam Speaker. When you talk about Kajiado South, when they are watching this bill be passed, they are very happy. It was taking care of their pockets. These are groups affected by drought. They are also affected by the issue of natural calamities, like now El Nino. No one is there to take care of them. So today they are the happiest group. Madam Mushomba, congratulations.
Honorable Obara, Eve.
Thank you very much. I also rise to thank Honorable Mushomba for coming up with this bill that is coming with a structured manner in which we can take care of our elderly people. Madam Speaker, fully aware that culture is dynamic and it's no longer possible to take care of these people within their communities, I support. Thank you.
Bodaga.
I'm in support of the bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Constitution 2010 provided for the establishment of a legal framework for the handling or treatment of the elderly, which we have really delayed to operationalize. Madam Speaker, our elderly people, including farmers, peasants, those who have worked, require dignity and require improvement of their living conditions.
Lastly, the Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba, you have 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I most sincerely want to take this opportunity to thank all the honorable members who have submitted their opinion to this House, contributed towards the support and the critique of this bill. I am forever grateful. This has been a journey that I started back in 2019 in the previous Parliament because of the passion I do carry for the elderly people of Kenya who have worked tirelessly to make Kenya what it is and who requires to be dignified during the delivery of the care. Madam Speaker, I am very, very, very impressed that the members have taken time to read through the bill. I am also very impressed that I've gotten quite valuable contributions towards the making this bill a better law in future. And I commit that whatever has been discussed and deliberated on this afternoon is going to be taken care of during our next reading of the bill. I am very, very happy that this House has found it worth to give this bill an opportunity to be given the second reading today. As we look forward to the next level, Madam Speaker, I request for the deferment of the putting of the question pursuant to Standing Order number 53, Section 3 of the Standing Order. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And therefore, I beg to reply.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba, for replying. Honorable members, question to be put is hereby deferred to another sitting. Honorable members, and the time now being 1 minute past 1:00 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, the 29th day of November 2023 at 2:30 p.m.